Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Naruto Disown his family and becomes a dangerous assassin through the help of Deathstroke last part. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Robin was in the main room talking to Batman about what he had seen on Reaper's little gift. So you think Talia might still be alive? Batman asked as he observed the freeze frame of the woman's face. I saw her get shot in the back by Joker and she was gone by the time I returned to check on her body. I don't doubt that Talia may still be alive, but it is possible for just coincidence as I have never seen Reaper during the Gotham incident. Robin brought a hand to his chin as his mentor had a point, as even though Talia could be alive, chances are that she would be badly crippled or had died sometime after leaving Gotham. I'll keep looking into it though, said Batman with a stern voice that hid his caution. If Talia is still alive and involved with Reaper, then Reaper may be more powerful or influential than he appears. Now, I believe you will be having a guest soon. Watchtower, out. Robin shut off the link before heading towards the garage where the other Titans were waiting. I can't believe we are going to be bodyguards to the Naruto Wilson. Beast Boy cheered with fanboy giddy. I have all of his movies. My favorite was in the film adaptation of MGR, Revengeance, where he played that monsoon dude. He was completely kick-ass. Cyborg chuckled as he said, my favorite was the remake of Psycho with his role as that creepy Bates dude. Especially when he did that monologue with all of those stuffed birds in the room. Raven smirked as she said, I kind of liked his part in the rendition of Midsummer's Night Dream as Oberon. You just wanted to see him in those tights. Cyborg joked as he remembered seeing Raven ogle at the actor when they had seen the film. You also wanted to see what was under those tights. I did not like any of the parts where Naruto was the bad guy, Starfire admitted with a rare small scowl on her face. He was cruel and manipulative and he did not care for those whom he had tricked. He had even made the honorable hero, Beowulf, into a villainous murderer and braggart. Focus Titans. Robin spoke with authority in his voice. We are not here to admire Mr. Wilson for his films. We are to protect him as he was recently targeted by one of the villains of the Justice League. Cyborg shook his head and said, sheesh, take it easy man. True, he was targeted by Toyman, but he's dating Livewire. If anyone should be mad, it should be her, since Toyman did try to kill Naruto. I'd actually have to say that she's pretty pissed about this whole ordeal, said a voice as the Teen Titans looked to see Naruto and Shinobi, especially since the League is putting me in the care of you brats. Please Wilson-san, said Shinobi as she tried to reason with the actor. We are only trying to protect you as Toyman is a serious threat since he had tried to kill you. It is only a coincidence that you are scheduled to appear at a parade here in Jump City. Naruto scoffed before deciding to walk around the garage as Shinobi looked at the teens and said, please forgive him, he had just gotten off with his insurance company after paying a visit to his girlfriend. Livewire wasn't too pleased with the ordeal as well. Robin nodded and said, we'll make sure that he's protected whenever he leaves the tower, Shinobi. We'll contact the League if anything comes up. The Kunoichi nodded before she leaned towards Robin and whispered, I also asked Bat Senpai to have Kyuubi and Mokuzai here as a little insurance should Reaper make his appearance. Robin nodded before seeing Shinobi vanish through the Zeta tube that was installed in Titan's tower to stay connected to the Justice League. So, said Robin as he approached Naruto, how about we show you to your room? Naruto shrugged as he watched Raven teleport his belongings to the room he would be staying at. The blonde followed the group as they gave him a small tour of the tower before leading him to his room. After the Titans had left his room to give him privacy, Naruto sat on the bed where his suitcases and bags were and pulled out a picture of Livewire wearing a navy blue one-piece swimsuit that hugged her body in all the right places. I just got here and I'm already missing you, Sparky, Naruto said as he easily remembered the villainess's gift to him. Too bad we won't be able to see each other in our conversations. The blonde gave the picture a loving kiss before placing it inside his suitcase as he was already missing his spark plug. A few hours had passed as Naruto was in the training room wearing gray sweatpants and black boxing tape over his hands. The Titans nearby watched the former MMA fighter unleash a fury of punches and kicks as each strike showed the power behind them, with Riot from 3 Days Grace blaring from the stereo. Damn, Cyborg spoke over the stereo, dude's fast. The others had to agree that the only person in their group who could match the blonde without superpowers would be Robin. His nickname was Flash Demon, back during his career as an MMA fighter. Robin responded as the blaring music kept pounding in his ears. Having enough of the offensive music, Starfire walked towards the stereo and shut it off to save her friends from the loud assault. "Hey!" Naruto yelled as he approached the red-haired girl, "that was my workout music." "I am sorry," Starfire said as she placed her hand on her hips and faced the blonde, "but your music of working out was obviously too loud for anyone to tolerate, and the words spoken by those musicians spoke nothing but destruction that wouldn't benefit anyone." Naruto shoved by her to turn the stereo back on but was blocked by Starfire. "If you want to listen to music while doing the working out," the Tamaranian girl offered, "then either turn down the booming sounds or change the song." Giving the girl a sneer, Naruto turned the stereo back on and changed the song with Guile's theme blaring even more loudly than the previous song. Starfire shut the stereo off as the blonde looked at her and said, "Hey, you said to either turn down the volume or change the song. You never said anything about both." Getting closer to Naruto, Starfire looked at the blonde and said, "You did not have to be a smart butt about the offer." Beast Boy and Cyborg both paled as one knows to never threaten a guy when he was working out, especially if the guy you are threatening happens to be a former MMA fighter. Naruto narrowed his eyes before a smirk formed on his face as he said, "Alright, how about this, Red? You and your friends go on a one-on-one fight with me. Nothing beyond extra strength. If I win 3 of those fights, I'll listen to my tunes however I like it." Starfire looked at Naruto and said, "But if we win, we will listen to whatever music we choose for the working out. Even the Japanese songs Beast Boy that Cyborg calls cheesy listens to." The blonde nodded before placing a hand under Starfire's short skirt and flipped it, exposing her rear for the other titans to see as he then said, "Challenge accepted." Robin was about to apprehend Naruto for flipping Starfire's skirt, but the girl placed a hand to stop the boy wonder. "What are you doing, Star?" Robin asked as he kept himself from looking. "That's UAL assault." "On your planet it is," said Starfire as she used her free hand to flip the skirt back down to cover her modesty. "But on Tamarin, it is a challenge to the highest degree should one's rear be exposed to friends by the challenger in such a manner. To refuse would bring the utmost shame that the one challenged is to be exiled from Tamarin until the challenged faces the challenger by challenging them in the same manner." Robin paled as he saw the deadly look on Starfire's eyes and knew that this was a serious matter to her. "I'll deal with him after the fight," said Robin before the girl gave him a small glare. "It would be unwise to confront him with ill intentions or to imprison him in my honor," Starfire said as she watched an 8-sided ring appear from the floor. Such an action from one who would be associated with the one who had been challenged would bring dishonor and shame to them. Seeing Naruto pull off his sweatpants to reveal black and white shorts and enter the cage, Starfire tightened her knuckles and said, "True that this is Earth and not Tamarin. Naruto challenged me through Tamaranian customs and I have no choice but to either accept his challenge or face the undeniable shame of not accepting his challenge. I must accept his challenge as I am one of royal blood, or bring shame onto my family." Robin let out a sigh as he said, "Alright, but I'm not going to let what he did slide. I will talk to him about this." Starfire said nothing as she approached the ring with the other titans following her quietly. "Who's up first?" Naruto asked as he put his mouth guard that he had in the shorts pocket as he saw Robin enter the ring. "Just remember the rules, pretty boy. No fancy gadgets or weapons, just good old-fashioned hands and feet." Robin nodded as he tossed his utility belt, hidden weapons, and his cape over the ring for them to land outside of the ring. Robin got into his fighting stance as Naruto brought his fists up into a boxing stance. "Say, Star," Cyborg asked as he couldn't get the image of the girl's skirt flipping upwards out of his head, "why aren't you fighting him first considering, you know?" Starfire kept her gaze on the 2 fighters in the ring as she said, "True that I was the one challenged in that manner, he initially challenged all of us to a fight. The member of the group that was challenged must be courteous and allow others that were challenged beforehand go before them." Beast Boy looked at Starfire and said, "But he might already win the bet before he even reaches you. It is best 3 out of 5. The Tamaranian girl narrowed her eyes and said, "Of course. But even so, I cannot deny his challenge no matter the circumstances, the both of us must fight." At the start of the bell, Robin quickly dashed towards Naruto with a kick flying but missed when the blonde ducked and dashed in for the assault. The boy wonder was avoiding each of Naruto's punches until he got caught in the gut before getting a kick that sent him crashing into the cage. Quickly getting onto his feet, Robin jumped to the side before diving towards Naruto with a tackle. The blonde sidestepped before having to block a kick as Robin twisted his body in a handstand. With another twist, Robin was able to knock the blonde off his feet before seeing Naruto use his hand to flip back onto his feet before starting to dance. "Why is he dancing?" Starfire asked as she continued to watch Naruto dance around Robin as the boy wonder was also blocking and avoiding Naruto's attacks. "It's his style," said Cyborg as he had seen all of Flash Demon's fights. Naruto's body structure is more suited to martial arts styles that focuses on speed, movement, and agility such as capoeira or Zui Quan, or Drunken Fist, as his constant movement and agility allows him to throw his opponents off balance with flashy moves while his speed would allow Naruto to deliver quick jabs instead of powerful haymakers like a brawler would normally do. Cyborg watched as Naruto used the chain fence of the cage to flip over Robin and delivered a series of quick jabs to the boy wonder's back around the shoulder blades and said, "It's almost like watching a school of piranhas at times, quick, confusing, and brutal." That is how he earned the name of Flash Demon. Inside the cage, Robin was breathing hard from having to avoid the onslaught of punches and kicks while trying to get close to the blonde. Robin had to admit that Naruto was fast and ruthless with his attacks and his movements were hard to track as 1 minute he would be dancing then staggering around like a drunk. "I know Bruce had me go through some intense training," Robin thought as Naruto continued to dance around the area, "but this guy's brutal." Robin then saw the blonde going for a head kick and went to block it, but he wasn't expecting the blonde to purposely miss him and use the momentum for a powerful punch that sent the boy wonder into one of the corners of the ring. Naruto watched as Robin was fighting to stay conscious, but smirked as the boy wonders slump over as that signaled Robin's defeat. 1-0, said the blonde as Robin was carried out of the ring before Cyborg entered. "I've always wanted to go toe-to-toe with the legendary Flash Demon," the cybernetic teen said with a small smile. Naruto rolled his shoulders as he said, "Always nice to meet a fan of mine." The bell sounded as the two fighters charged in to begin their match. Up in the watchtower, Minato and Kushina were watching the fights with Batman when Wildcat entered. "What's going on?" the aging boxer asked as he viewed the screens. "Is that Naruto fighting the Teen Titans?" Minato nodded and said, "Yeah. Naruto is pretty good in the taijutsu department, really good. His movements are similar to the taijutsu style the Hyuga clan uses." Seeing how Cyborg was fighting Naruto, Wildcat chuckled a bit and then said, "I've not only seen Naruto's fights but I've even faced him in the underground fights. Trust me when I say this, but Naruto is fucking brutal when nothing's held back. Kids broke more arms, ribs, legs, and even faces than his own injuries. There is a reason he's called the Flash Demon." Kushina kept watching as Naruto was now spinning around Cyborg with such agility that it was frighteningly beautiful. She remembered Rock Lee and how his skills in taijutsu were so amazing that Lee was fighting with the ferocity of a great lion. But when Lee and Arashi met in the finals of the Chunin exams where the taijutsu expert was easily getting through Arashi's defenses, at least until her son taped into the Kyuubi's chakra and not only completely scorched Lee's chakra system, but also gave the teen third-degree burns on almost all of the teen's body. Lee's skin was completely burned off while his insides were being boiled by his own blood. Tsunade said that Lee was lucky enough to be lucky to have survived such destruction done to his body. After the invasion, Kushina and Minato were under fire for what Arashi had done to Lee and Hinata. The two of them had lost so many friends because they were ashamed to have known them and were wary of Arashi as even though his chakra was sealed, the Jinchuriki was still trained to fight and the teen was a complete monster during the fights. Monster, Kushina thought as Naruto was now fighting Beast Boy as he allowed the changeling to turn into a bear. "I never would have thought of my own child as a monster." We had showered Arashi with affection and praise while we left Naruto behind unloved. Naruto had just finished his fight with Beast Boy as he was now fighting Raven while Kushina kept on lamenting. "Now Minato and I are wanting Naruto's love but he doesn't want us now," Kushina thought as Raven had quickly forfeited when she was easily cornered. "Arashi had brought us shame because of our mistakes while you have brought honor through your own 2 feet." Kushina walked out of the room with a tear rolling down her cheek as she wanted to be on her own. "Please forgive me, Naruto?" In Titan's tower, Raven had stepped out of the arena as Starfire entered while Naruto smirked. "Just you and me now, Red." said Naruto as he rolled his neck. Even though I've already won the bet, I believe that I should at least give you a chance. How about this? No rules about illegal hits, as the only rules are no killing and nothing above having a strength boost. Starfire nodded as she tightened her knuckles, ready to restore her honor. Ding! Starfire quickly rushed Naruto and threw a powerful haymaker, but missed as the blonde moved to the side and countered with a throw to the fence. Getting back to her feet, the Tamaranian quickly went on the defense as she was dodging and weaving around Naruto's attack. The blonde then flipped behind Starfire and got the girl in a chokehold before the girl jumped onto the mat, with Naruto taking the full brunt of the fall. Starfire was about to try and roll out of the hold, but felt Naruto wrap in legs around the girl's waist, so she had to resort to using elbow jabs to try and get herself free. I must stay strong, Starfire thought as her vision was starting to blur. I cannot let him beat me. The Tamaranian was able to roll herself over and slowly got to her feet, Naruto still hanging on as the girl was trying to shake the blonde off. Naruto had jumped off as he lost his grip and flipped onto his feet and began dancing. Starfire had to move quickly to avoid Naruto's attack before going in for a kick to the head, but the blonde had caught her ankle with one hand. A piece of advice for any of your future fights, Naruto said with a devilish smirk, wear some protective gear and some panties. The blonde used his free hand to punch Starfire between her legs before giving the girl a shoulder toss right into the cage. The Tamaranian girl bounced off the chain links and landed on the mat before she slowly got to her feet as she held herself. Starfire didn't have time to think as Naruto soon rushed towards her in a fury of flashy movements that hid the punches and kicks the blonde threw towards her. She swayed, ducked, and blocked whatever attacks were thrown at her while trying to land some hits on Naruto until she found an opening. Time for a taste of your own medicine. Starfire roared as she punched the blonde between the legs, causing Cyborg and Beast Boy to cringe while covering themselves. The Tamaranian smirked a bit but paled as she saw that Naruto was unfazed before seeing a flash of darkness when the blonde gave her a powerful headbutt. The other Titans watched in complete shock as Naruto was now spinning around Starfire while delivering quick jabs before tripping the disoriented girl to the mat and pinning her. Starfire opened her eyes to see Naruto applying pressure to her throat while have a fist cocked back. The Tamaranian stole a quick glance before she said, I submit. You are the victor. The blonde smirked as he released his grip and stood on his feet before reaching down the front of his shorts. The Titans saw the former MMA fighter pull out an athletic cup that was completely dented from Starfire's punch and were shocked that the blonde was still walking without a limp. If he can take a punch like that, everyone thought as Naruto gathered his belongings and left the gym. Just how much pain tolerance does he have? In a warehouse in Jump City, Yamato and Arashi had just finished watching the fights through the hidden spy cam that was given to them by Batman. Naruto's taijutsu skills is actually quite amazing, Yamato said through his Anbu mask. He could probably put Guy to shame. The redhead scoffed as he said, doesn't matter just how good his taijutsu skill is, he'll never be as great as me. He just got lucky with that cheap shot when I insulted that slut he's with. Yamato shook his head as he was wondering why, aside from acting as a leash, he was paired with the temperamental genin. The Jump City parade is just a few days away, so we must be on our guard should there be a threat that the Titans cannot handle, Yamato said as he needed to remind Arashi of their mission. Your mother also wanted us to keep an eye on your brother and help the Titans in keeping him safe. Whatever. Arashi scoffed as he leaned out the window to view the citizens oblivious to the genjutsu on the window. That fucking waste of space will never be my brother. In one of his many hideouts, Deadshot heard his cell phone ring and answered it. Hello, said the assassin as he held a cup of coffee. Deadshot here. Another job? Sure, who's the poor sap? The assassin took a sip of his coffee before suddenly spitting out and said, you want me to kill WHO? So he's connected to the Justice League? Alright, and how much were you paying? Wow, that's a lot of zeros. I'll take the job. Make sure you have that check ready. Deadshot shut off the phone and chuckled as the amount of money he would be receiving would actually be worth killing this guy, and of course there was a bonus in it for him if the guy's death was seen by the public. The assassin chuckled as he then said, road trip. Night had fallen upon Titan's tower and not a sound was heard as a figure in black traveled through the halls. The figure silently ran through the hall, all the while hugging the shadowed wall before rolling to the other side before traversing the hall again. The shadowed figure soon reached the living area and approached the computer to begin his work. His fingers flew across the keyboard as the screen shone brightly against the night. "Who's there?" said a familiar voice as the figure turned to see Starfire, Robin. "Yeah, it's me, Star," said Robin as he lightly turned towards the girl, "just checking the databases and doing a few updates. I'll be a while as I also need to update the backup files so you can head back to bed. You'll need your rest since who knows who could be targeting Naruto aside from Toyman." Starfire groggily nodded as she floated towards Robin and gave him a kiss of the cheek as she said, "Good night." Once the Tamaranian girl was gone, Robin smirked under his mask as he continued his work on the collection of files. "Good night, Starfire," said the figure as the computer was alerting him about a virus within the system. "Have pleasant dreams." Morning had arrived as Naruto was in the living area getting a movie ready as Beast Boy was preparing some popcorn. "Too bad the others are trying to hunt down the person who hacked into their systems," said Naruto as he was looking at one of the films he had starred in. "Still, I wonder how that person got into such a highly secured system." "Well, he did destroy a lot of stuff on the computers," said Beast Boy as he got a couple of empty bowls out. "The records we have on some criminals, a few blueprints of the tower, the backup files, and even all of my high scores." Before the two could register what had happened, the window had shattered as the new HIVE-5 busted through the window. "Alright, snot face," Gizmo ordered as he hovered in the air. "Give us pretty boy over there and we won't hurt you as much." "You didn't say please, Gizzy," said the newest member of the HIVE-5 with a childlike voice. "You can get a lot of things if you say please." The new member was actually a grown woman with fluffy blonde hair wearing a flashy school uniform and a porcelain mask in the shape of a child's face. The new member happily skipped towards Beast Boy and held out a hand, much to the confusion of the changeling and the chagrin of the other members of the HIVE-5. "I'm Lati," the woman introduced herself with a cute giggle in her voice. "I'm here with Mr. Reaper's friends because he says I need to be with other people my age." "You're really cute as you remind me of my pet lizard." "Lati," Gizmo scolded as the woman's attitude. "You're not our age as we were told by our sources that you're just a 10-year-old girl trapped inside of an adult's body. Now flash him." "You're mean," Lati said as she faced the engineer. "Mr. Reaper told me that I'm old enough to be with you guys since Jinxie left and you didn't say please." A vein on the small boy's scalp pulsed as Gizmo then said, "Please flash Beast Boy." The woman giggled as she said, "See Mr. Grumpy. I doesn't hurt to say please. I'll flash him now." Lati turned towards Beast Boy and ripped open her shirt to reveal her C-cupped breasts, making the changeling fall back from the nosebleed he was given. "I don't think Gizmo was meaning that kind of flash," said Mammoth as he held a flashbang grenade. "Oopsie," said Lati as she giggled before buttoning up her shirt. "Now let's take Blondie to Mr. Reaper." "Not on our watch," said a voice as the HIVE-5 turned to see the other members of the Teen Titans as Robin then looked at Gizmo. "I take it that you hacked into our systems, Gizmo." Gizmo chuckled as he said, "For once bird brain you're wrong as it was Slade who hacked into the systems. We're here to bring Naruto here to a friend of ours." "Yeah," said Lati as she skipped towards Naruto and placed her hands on the actor's shoulders. "Mr. Reaper and Blondie here will be great friends." Gizmo's eye twitched as he and the others looked at the childish woman with a disappointed look. "Oopsie," Lati innocently said as she tapped her fingers together. "Guess that was to be our little secret." "Titans, go," Robin ordered as he and the others rushed towards the HIVE-5 with Raven going towards the fallen Beast Boy. "Beast Boy, what happened?" Raven spoke as she tried to wake the changeling. "What did they do to you?" "I just showed him my boobies," said Lati as she approached the empath. "He's silly." Raven looked at the woman with a small blush on her cheeks as she said, "You did what?" Lati giggled as she saw the black aura surrounding Raven's hand and said, "Ooh, magic, yay. You gonna to pull a bunny out of your bikini?" The empath sneered a bit before launching dark energy towards Lati, but the woman was somehow dodging the attacks while giggling like a little girl. "Cool," Lati cheered as she weaved her hands into intricate patterns. "My turn." Shui lila ma te miu vrico go ma la. Raven flinched back as a flash of light from a flashbang shone brightly into her eyes before feeling a sharp kick launching her into the counter. Robin saw Raven on the floor unconscious as he turned his attention towards the childish woman. After knocking Billy Numerous out with a flashbang, the boy wonder then charged towards Lati into a tackle but missed as the woman leapt over him. Yay, leapfrog. The woman cheered before she saw Robin get to his feet. Mr. Reaper told me about you, Robin. Reaper, Robin said as he was now on the defensive. What has he told you about me? He told me that you were a bully. Lottie answered as she ignored Starfire and Cyborg fighting Gizmo and Mammoth. You learned how to be a bully from another bully. Mr. Reaper told me about Batman, and that man is nothing but a bully and a boogeyman. That's not true. Robin countered as he went onto the offense while Lottie was casually weaving around Robin's attacks. Mr. Reaper also told me that I shouldn't trust bullies like you, the woman said as she continued to evade and deflect the Boy Wonder's attacks. You bullies say you help everyone, but really you are hypocrites that just bully people for attention. Besides, Lottie placed a hand on Robin's shoulder before leaning towards his ear and with a sultry and mature voice said, how can you trust your own mentor and the new members while they withhold information about Kyuubi and the demon sealed inside of him? Can you really trust someone with his kind of attitude with the power of a demon? You have already had to face Trigon when he was released, but how will you and your little team handle the power of the real Kyuubi? Do you really think that you will be informed about an actual demon that could destroy mountains and islands with the swipe of one of its 9 tails? Lottie quickly punched Robin in the gut and fled towards the broken window and with her childlike voice said, we need to get back to Mr. Reaper. We've been here too long and I'm not looking forwards into getting a spanking from those bullies from the Justice League. What about Naruto? Oh yeah, said Lottie as she launched a wire that wrapped itself around Naruto and pulled the celebrity towards the villainous. Now we can go see Mr. Reaper. Before the Teen Titans could act, Lottie set off some flashbangs and blinded them before she and the other members of the HIVE-5 made their escape. Cough cough, where are they? Cyborg said as he tried to clear the cobwebs out of his vision while Robin staggered up to his feet and walked towards the broken window. They got away, Robin said as he saw that the villains were long gone. We need to go after them. But how will we find them? Starfire asked as she held Raven on her shoulder before seeing Robin pull out his communicator. I have my ways, the Boy Wonder said as he saw the small blip on the screen. However, I'm also calling in some backup since we may end up dealing with Reaper. We're already here, said a voice as the conscious Titans looked and saw Mokuzai and Kyuubi walking through the destruction. I believe we should act immediately. Robin, you and Starfire are with me and Kyuubi while Cyborg will stay behind and help Beast Boy and Raven. The group nodded as Mokuzai, Kyuubi, Robin, and Starfire left through the window while Cyborg took Raven and Beast Boy to the medroom. At a random hideout, the members of the HIVE-5, save for Lottie, were waiting outside a room as only Lottie was allowed to take Naruto inside to meet with Reaper. I wonder what they're doing in there. Mammoth asked as he, Seymour, Billy Numerous, and Kid Wykid were playing cards. I mean, why would Reaper only want to meet with Lottie? I don't know. Gizmo growled towards the hulking teen, probably playing favorites since Lottie was personally trained by him. Curiosity then took over the group as they leaned their ears against the door and heard muffled voices. Please, Mr. Reaper, I'll be a good girl, said Laddie's voice with fear, anything but that. I'm sorry Lottie, but this hurts me more than you. Reaper's voice said calmly, being late makes you a bad girl and bad girls must be dealt with, now drop them. The hell are they doing? Seymour asked before. Smack, smack, smack. Is she? Billy said as the sound continued. Is Lottie getting spanked? Kid Wykid brought his cloak against the door and carefully leaned his face into the dark fabric before pulling out and nodded. Sucks to be her then, said Mammoth as he decided to walk away from the door. I've heard that Reaper is pretty fucking brutal. I've even heard that he killed a group that was sent in to kill him while banging some chick. Anyone who can do that is brutal. The other guys decided to get back to what they were doing as to avoid Reaper's wrath as he may turn his attention towards them next. Inside the room, Lottie had just pulled her skirt back up as Reaper went to examine Naruto. Now what have we learned, young lady? Reaper asked as Lottie was rubbing her sore rear. Never be late for a meeting, the woman said as she noticed a large crate. What's that, Mr. Reaper? Oh, this thing? Reaper said as he patted the box and smirked under his mask. Just a little gift from our robotics expert. Got it just in time for the Jump City parade too. Ooh, a parade, Lottie said as she forgot about being spanked. Can I go? Can I go? Please, please, please? I promise to be a good little girl this time. Reaper approached the woman and placed a hand on her shoulder as he said, you can go Lottie, but you must remember your promise to be a good girl. my little ghost. Lottie chuckled as with her mature voice, she said, "Of course I'll be a good girl, Grim." Robin was standing next to his cycle in pondering thought. It had only been a few days since he and Starfire had gotten Naruto back from the HIVE-5 with the help of Mokuzai and Kyuubi, but something was deeply bothering him. Flashback. Robin, Starfire, Mokuzai, and Kyuubi were outside a warehouse that the group had tracked Naruto at thanks to the tracking device Robin had placed in Naruto's watch. "What's the plan, Robin?" Mokuzai asked, getting a shocked look from the boy wonder. "Jump City is under the protection of the Teen Titans while Kyuubi and I are just here to help aid you should Reaper make his appearance. Why plan when we can just storm in there and kick all of their asses into next week?" Kyuubi said as his mask hid his devilish smirk. "Those weaklings won't know what hit them." "No," said Robin as he saw Mokuzai give Kyuubi a look. "Naruto is still in there and we can't afford to go in there recklessly. We need to extract Naruto out of there safely before handling with the HIVE-5. The boy wonder heard Kyuubi growl and mumble under his breath and couldn't help but think about what Lottie had told him. Could Kyuubi be more powerful than even the strongest members of the Justice League? Was Batman hiding more information about the young man? What is it about Kyuubi that is making Beast Boy and Raven wary of him? And what did Lottie mean about the real Kyuubi? After ridding those thoughts from his mind, Robin looked at the group and said, "Starfire, you and Kyuubi provide a distraction and lure out any of their members while Mokuzai and I will try and extract Naruto out of there. I think it would be best if Starfire and I switch places," Mokuzai said before Kyuubi placed a hand on the man's shoulder. "Didn't you say that this is their place, Mokuzai?" Kyuubi challengingly asked. "We must listen to Robin's orders. Besides, I can handle myself against these thugs." Kyuubi grabbed Starfire's wrist and jumped away before Mokuzai could protest as Robin led him towards the other side of the building. The two were waiting outside a window as they both carefully looked to see only 4 of the HIVE-5 members there. "Where's Lottie?" Robin thought to himself, and before he could get his answer, a loud crash had echoed through the air. Seeing that Mammoth and Billy Numerous had left to investigate the noise, Mokuzai placed a finger under the window before the window itself began to raise up from a small block of wood growing from the man's finger. "Okay," Robin thought as he and Mokuzai quickly and quietly jumped inside and slowly closed the window. "That is pretty cool." The boy wonder gave Mokuzai a few hand signals before the two separated with the man silently jumping down onto the floor below. Robin jumped down onto the floor behind a stack of crates that were a few meters away from Gizmo. Robin looked to see Mokuzai positioned behind Kid Wykid, ready to strike on his command. The boy wonder took out one of his customized electro-batarangs that were specifically designed to disable any electrical device that it struck and threw it, hitting Gizmo's pack. "What the hell?" Gizmo said in shock as he and Kid Wykid were suddenly bound by trees that somehow grew from right underneath them. Kid Wykid tried to escape but found that he couldn't as the binding trees were somehow preventing him. "Capture completed," said Mokuzai as he had his hands clasped together. "They shouldn't be a problem at the moment. I'll check on Starfire and Kyuubi while you tend to Wilson-san." Robin nodded as he went to help Naruto get out of the bindings. Flashback end. "We're ready to go," said a man, snapping Robin out of his thoughts. "You're going to be following me, correct?" "Yeah," said Robin as he got on his cycle and put his helmet on. "We need to make sure that Naruto remains safe." "Should I pass you? You're to get Naruto inside the car and get him to the safe house no matter what." The man nodded as he got into the car while Naruto was sitting on the roof with his legs hanging from the open sunroof. "Normally I'd be riding in a limo during parades like this," said Naruto as he heard the car's engine start up. "This is going to feel weird to not have a martini after the parade." "I'm just taking extra precaution, Mr. Wilson," said Robin with a professional tone in his voice. "Even though the HIVE-5 is now down a member thanks to Kyuubi, you are still in danger." "Whatever," Naruto said as the car began to move, signaling the start of the parade. At the Metropolis Women's Prison, Livewire was watching the Jump City parade with a few other female convicts. "So Leslie," asked a prisoner with a spiked mohawk, "what's it like dating a celebrity like Naruto Wilson?" "He's a pretty nice guy," Livewire said as the television showed the few parade floats and balloons. "Definitely not like the other celebs you see." "So have you two done the deed?" asked another prisoner with the side of her head shaved in a bob cut, getting a small blush from the electric villainess. "I'll admit we've had some fun," Livewire said as she tried to fight the small blush on her face. But we haven't done any of the more active stuff yet. But once you get out of here, said another prisoner with a tattoo on her exposed arm and letting the sentence hang with a smirk on her face. Once I get out of here, Livewire continued with a smirk of her own, we'll go to the hospital and see if Foxy has the okay for the more fun stuff. Ms. Willis, said a guard as he entered the room, your bail has been paid. You can go get your things. Can they wait until I see my boyfriend? Livewire asked, getting a confused look on the guard's face. He's supposed to be in this parade. The guard thought for a moment before he said, all right. The person who paid your bail won't be here till later anyway. I'll just watch the parade with you. My son's going to Jump City Tech and he and a few of his fraternity friends have a float that I'd like to see since he and his friends sounded pretty damn proud about it. He was so secretive about it over the phone. Livewire and the few convicted shrugged their shoulders before offering the man a seat. It wasn't like anything bad was going to happen, right? At Jump City, Starfire was floating next to a parade balloon that was shaped like a clown laughing. I do not feel the joy that the parade is giving today, the Tamaranian girl admitted as memories of that mission she and Robin had with Mokuzai and Kyubi. Flashback. Starfire and Kyubi had landed in an alleyway that was across from the entrance to the warehouse. How are we to lure them out? The Tamaranian girl asked as Kyubi then looked at her. Easy, like this, the young man said as he grabbed a trash can and tossed it towards the warehouse, creating a loud crash as metal crashed against brick. The two waited until Mammoth and Billy Numerous stormed out of the door and looked around for what caused the noise. Before anyone could act, Kyubi rushed from his and Starfire's hiding spot and began to attack the two villains in a ruthless fashion. Seeing Billy create more clones of himself, Starfire rushed in to help Kyubi by throwing a few starbolts at each of the Billy clones' feet. We'll take Red over here, said one of the Billy clones before he pointed towards Kyubi and Mammoth. You guys help Mammoth with the other Red. I don't think so, said Kyubi as he brought his hands together with his fingers forming a cross sign, multi-shadow clone jutsu. Plumes of smoke erupted around the young man as clones of Kyubi soon charged out of the smoke and began to attack the Billy clones. Give them no mercy. Kyubi then ordered with an ominous glint in the eyehole of the fox-shaped mask, go wild. Starfire watched as many of the Kyubi clones began to either pummel or use blasts of wind against the increasing army of Billy clones. Some of the Kyubi clones had disappeared in plumes of smoke, but the Billy clones were also melding into other clones. Starfire decided to join the fight, but one of the Kyubi clones pulled her hair. Get out of the way, bitch, said the Kyubi clone as he and a few other Kyubi clones tossed Starfire to the side. The Tamaranian was able to correct herself to keep herself from hitting the warehouse's brick wall until she saw a small group of 4 Billy clones surround her. Not going anywhere, said one of the Billies with a smirk on his face. Foxboy over there might have the same power as us, said another Billy clone. But he can't handle all of us, said another Billy clone as Kyubi was starting to get buried by the sheer number of Billies. You have forgotten that my friends and I have taken you down before, Starfire said as she got into a fighting stance, and we can take you down again. Before Starfire could move, a sudden feeling of dread had pierced her body and the girl looked around until she saw that the ominous feeling was coming from the pile of Billies as she had saw the hidden look of tension was on Mammoth's face. Raven had taught Starfire how to read expressions on a person's face as each twitch of facial muscle indicates a different emotion. The Tamaranian could see that Mammoth was hiding his fear as his eyes showed fear and defiance while his mouth was structured to accompany his defiance that also accompanied by both anger and fear. Mammoth's whole body was in the time-stopping fight or flight mode as the teen almost looked more like a statue frozen in place. A pulse of power caused all the Billy clones to somehow be blow off of Kyubi who now had an aura of pure bloodlust and rage. It was as if Kyubi was something that death itself would fear. The other Kyubi clones had vanished in plumes of smoke before the real Kyubi went in for the attack. It was a sickening sight as Kyubi went from one Billy clone to the other, slashing with his hands as they were now sharp and deadly claws causing blood to fly around like ribbons. Mammoth finally decided to go into fight mode and tackled Kyubi into a binding hug, but it was futile as the masked ninja just glared at the larger teen and somehow had scared him into letting go. Just what in Sam hell are you? The original Billy asked in fear as he felt pain coursing into his body from his destroyed and mutilated clones merging back into him. Kyuubi looked at the villain from a slouched position as a dark and ominous chuckle escaped from his mask. "I am Kyuubi," the masked ninja roared with a distorted voice before he had Billy in his grasp quicker than anyone could blink. Hey man, I surrender," the villain nervously said as he held his hands up to both show his surrender and for protection. "PP please have mercy." "The fuck's mercy?" Kyuubi asked, and if anyone could see through his mask, they would see his crazed and demonic smirk. "Mercy's not a part of my vocabulary." Both Starfire and Mammoth watched in pure horror as Kyuubi slammed Billy Numerous into the ground, violently shaking the very street itself, before ruthlessly beating the villain with earth-shaking punch after punch. "Fucking hell," Mammoth thought as he watched the one-sided beating with horrified awe. "Just what the fuck is he?" Starfire had to keep herself from vomiting as Kyuubi suddenly stopped before lifting a heavily beaten, heavily bruised, and bleeding Billy up into the air before tossing him into a nearby building, creating a large gaping hole as the sheer force within the throw was powerful enough to go straight through 2 buildings. Looking at Kyuubi again, Starfire then saw a small red shroud of oozing energy in the shape of a fox enveloping the masked ninja as he menacingly cackled in the air. The sound scuffling feet alerted everyone to a now fleeing Mammoth that was tripping on his feet. "So you're my next victim," Kyuubi said with a sickening tone of joy that would even give the Joker chills. "I'm gonna have fun with you." Starfire blinked before seeing the masked ninja going after Mammoth, before finding herself in front of the teen and feeling a burning pain being slashed onto her back. The sound of an anguished howl echoed through her ears before the world had gone dark. Flashback end. "Are you alright?" Raven asked as her voice snapped the Tamaranian out of her thoughts. "If your back is still bothering you, I can take you back to the tower and heal some of the lingering pain." "I am alright," Starfire answered as she tugged on her shirt that covered her upper body that hid the bandages she wore, "but I thank you for the offer." It was a few days after the fight that Starfire had woken up to find not only the other Titans but Mammoth at her bedside in the tower's infirmary, and she was wearing a teal dress that she had seen at the hospitals. She was told by Robin about how Kyuubi had gone out of control and injured her and Billy Numerous before Mokuzai had stopped him. The Tamaranian girl soon found out about how badly she was injured as when she moved, her back painfully flared up and caused the girl to puke a few buckets of clear liquid. But she learned that she had gotten lucky. Billy Numerous's injuries were beyond what Starfire had as the young villain was placed on life support after being sent into a coma from the damages on his body. Both of Billy's arms and legs were broken in 3 different places on all limbs. 6 ribs were broken with the remaining ribs and sternum badly cracked. Multiple concussions. His jaw had to be replaced with a prosthetic jaw, his nose was shattered, and his back was broken. Even the doctors had admitted to the Titans that they thought that Billy wasn't going to make it with both the number of injuries and the amount of blood loss the young man had gone through. The doctors then said that even if he manages to live after all the damage he had suffered, Billy would never the same person he was before. Starfire was surprised to see Mammoth in the infirmary, let alone Titan's tower, as the others said that the hulking teen was grateful that Starfire had saved his life and was incredibly sorry for trying to run away. The teen had even admitted that he had tried to ask for a small boat, even if it was a small swan boat, so he could try and visit Starfire, and he was even tempted to just swim after the 3rd time he was refused service. Mammoth soon began to berate himself for being a coward when he tried to run away after what Kyuubi had done to Billy and how it was his fault that Starfire was hurt how she was. It kept going as the hulking teen had fear-driven tears falling from his face before the Tamaranian girl, to the surprise of her friends and against the searing pain in her back, got out of her bed and hugged the teen while whispering words of comfort in his ears. Mammoth was even allowed to carefully hug Starfire back as he sobbed into the girl's gown. "I wonder how Mammoth is doing." Starfire couldn't help but wonder before the sound of the marching band signaled the start of the parade. Watching the parade from atop a nearby building, Mokuzai was holding Kyuubi with a leash made of wood while another ninja similar to Mokuzai with a different mask looked down at the passing parade. "How's the parade, senpai?" Mokuzai asked as music filled his ears. "Have you spotted Naruto yet?" "Not yet," said the silver-haired ninja as he saw the balloons pass by. "But I do have to say that the balloons, floats, and the amount of people here could make this difficult." I haven't heard anything from the Titans or from Flash Senpai. Seeing Kyuubi struggling to get the wooden collar off, the silver-haired ninja turned to the redhead and said, "You know that you wouldn't be in that situation if you had kept yourself under control. Haven't you caused enough problems already, Arashi?" "Oh please, Kakashi-sensei," Kyuubi countered as he stopped pulling at the collar. "Why should we hold back if we're dealing with those criminals? I was doing the Titans a favor. By sending a young man to the hospital barely alive?" Kakashi stated with disappointment. "Haven't you learned from that time after the Chunin exams when you robbed Lee and Hinata the ability to have chakra? I thought you would have learned to control yourself in combat. How do you think the public will react to how the Justice League has a hero who nearly kills their villains?" "Fuck the public," Kyuubi said as he went back to trying to remove his collar. "Fuck the lot of them." The two masked ninjas sighed at Kyuubi's attempt of removing his collar and wondered just what went wrong. "Inu," said a voice over the radio as Kakashi brought a hand to his ear. "Inu speaking," Kakashi answered as he went back to looking at the parade below. "Mokuzai, Kyuubi, and I are in position and watching over the parade. How are you at your end, Flash Senpai?" "Everything's cool on my end," Flash said through the radio. "So far I haven't seen anything suspicious at the—" "Wait a minute, I'll call you back later, just keep an eye on the parade in Naruto." "Will do." "Inu, out," Kakashi said as he killed the radio on his end and looked closely at the parading vehicles and floats until he spots Naruto behind the Jump City Tech float that was the upper half of a person with the right side wearing a knight's armor while the other half was dressed in a police uniform with a flag that said, "To protect the people, to serve the kingdom," hanging in front of the vehicle. Not a bad philosophy, Kakashi thought as he watched Naruto wave to the people out on the sidewalk. To say Lex Luthor was having a bad day was the biggest understatement in his life. He was for once actually wanting to see Superman stop any of his diabolical schemes. But alas, he had nothing as Reaper had struck a deal with him that he would not only capture a member of the Justice League, but kill one of them, and all Luthor had to do was babysit. "Lexi," cheered a voice as said villain held in a sigh as Lottie skipped towards him. "What is it, Lottie?" Luthor asked as he dreaded the question. "Could you get me that, please?" Lottie asked as she pointed to a stand that was selling stuffed animals. "But sweetie," Luthor tried to counter as his arms were full of many different stuffed animals. "I've already bought you 15 plushy friends. Why not get some ice cream instead?" "No," Lottie said with a stamp of her foot. "Mr. Reaper told me that I can have anything I want as long as I'm a good girl. Do I have to tell him that you were being mean to me?" Luthor held his tongue at the childish woman's threat. While he didn't exactly fear Reaper, he was not foolish to lose a potential business partner like the assassin, that is if he can deliver. An assassin that can kick the Teen Titans around and steal one of their little toys as flawlessly as that is worth having around. "Okay, you win," Luthor said as he could almost hear his wallet crying. "I'll get you a new friend." "How about the two of you settle for me?" said Flash as he zoomed in front of them. "Never knew you had a girlfriend, Luthor. Believe it or not, I'm babysitting," the villain said as he couldn't reach for his hidden blaster since the last time he dropped one of Laddie's plushie friends. The woman threw a screaming fit until she was satisfied with another plushie and some ice cream. "Lottie, meet Flash." "Flash, meet Lottie." "Hiya," Lottie said with a cheerful voice. "Mr. Reaper told me about how you work with Batman." "Is it true?" "Of course," Flash said with a smirk. "Me and him have taken down a few baddies and we haw." Flash fell to his knees as he held himself after Lottie had kicked him between the legs. "Batman is a bully," Lottie said as she put her fists to her hips. "If you work with him, then that make you a bully too." Luthor saw the masked woman splash a small bottle of clear liquid into Flash's face before a smoke pellet hit the hero's face and released a noxious gas that knocked Flash out. "That was chloroform and knockout gas," Luthor said as Lottie lifted Flash onto her shoulder in a piggyback style. "And I just thought you were a sweet little girl." "I'm always a good little girl," Lottie said with a mature and seductive voice, "and Mr. Reaper has always loved his good little girls." Luthor watched as Lottie suddenly went back to her childish voice and personality and was now beginning to question his potential business partner and his methods. Bang! A loud gunshot echoed through the cheerful music before screams of horror replaced the joyous music while a multitude of voices screamed out what had happened. "Naruto's been shot. Oh my god, he's dead. Sniper." Luthor was surprised to see that what he had heard was true as after Robin zoomed by, The car that was escorting the celebrity had abruptly stopped as Naruto Wilson was now laying behind the car with a puddle of blood gushing from his obliterated head. From one of the buildings, Deadshot held his sniper rifle as he smirked at a job well done. Can't believe that the Naruto Wilson was Hireishin. The assassin chuckled as he stood up. Seems like the Justice League's rookies aren't up to snuff. I know, said a voice behind Deadshot as the assassin turned to see the barrel end of a shotgun. Too bad you were misinformed. Blam! Reaper unimpressively watched as bits of skull and brain matter flew about before Deadshot's body fell off of the building. A sickening splat echoed in Reaper's ears as he looked over to see more civilians running in panic and away from the bloody mess on the concrete. No one steals one of Death's kills, Reaper said as he heard the sound of footsteps behind him. Too bad Death will have to take a rain check after today, said Mokuzai as he tightened his grip on the small wooden leash that was connected to Kyuubi's collar. You're coming with us. Are you behind the death of Naruto Wilson? Inu asked as he knew both Minato and Kushina would be upset about their son's death. Believe it or not, no, Reaper said as he let the top of the barrel rest on his shoulder. I, along with other assassins, were hired to kill Naruto Wilson, aka Hireishin, and apparently someone had beaten me to the kill. Too bad for him because I can be quite a sore loser. Still, said Inu as he drew his sword while Mokuzai got into a quick battle stance. You are coming with us for questioning and we won't take no for an answer. Inu rushed towards Reaper as the assassin used his shotgun to block the sword strike while hitting the ninja with an open-palmed attack. The ninja saw the attack coming and jumped away to avoid the attack while a few shuriken from Mokuzai flew towards Reaper, but they missed as the assassin rolled to the side. After quickly recovering from the roll, Reaper threw his own set of throwing knives towards Mokuzai. You're going to have to do better than that to take us down, Mokuzai said as he created a block of wood from the leash to block the attack. We've been trained for years to handle assassins such as you. Then we have something in common, Reaper said as he used his shotgun to block another sword attack from Inu before drawing his own red-bladed sword and slamming the pommel into the masked ninja's gut. Inu quickly jumped away to avoid a slash from Reaper's blade before holding his stomach where the assassin had hit him. From there Inu and Reaper went into a sword battle while the assassin used his shotgun to deflect the shuriken coming from Mokuzai and Kyuubi. The cloaked assassin quickly jumped over Inu with a quick twist of his body and slashed the ninja's back with the red-bladed sword. Inu, Mokuzai called out as his colleague stumbled forward with his back bleeding before he made a few hand seals, wood-style, wood clone jutsu. As the Teen Titans appeared, they saw another Mokuzai grow from the masked ninja before the original Mokuzai handed the other the wooden leash. That's freaky, Cyborg said as his mind couldn't process what he saw. So cool. Beast Boy cheered before seeing that the one Mokuzai holding a wooden leash that was attached to a collar around Kyuubi's neck. What's he doing here? We'll figure that out later, Robin said as he saw that Inu and the original Mokuzai were fighting Reaper. Titans, go. Getting the signal, the other Titans rushed towards Reaper with Starfire tackling Reaper after the assassin jumped in the air. Noticing that he was in the Tamarinian's grip, Reaper pulled out a small knife from his left sleeve and stabbed the girl in the back where one of the scars were. Gyaa. Starfire screamed as the pain was enough to cause her to loosen her grip, allowing Reaper to slam his elbow into the side of her head, knocking her out. Starfire, Robin called out as he rushed to catch the Tamarinian girl while Raven went to capture the falling assassin with her magic. Azareth Metreon Zen. Boom. A flashbang had gone off above her, badly disorienting her as she held her ringing head and fell onto her rear. Raven, Beast Boy called out as he was able to avoid the flashbang before changing into a pterodactyl and flew towards Reaper. The changeling was able to catch the assassin in his talons and was about to throw him towards the others on the ground before Reaper slammed a small pellet into Beast Boy's chest. Freezing pain shot through Beast Boy's body, causing him to let go of Reaper and change back into his regular form with ice clinging onto his chest. Reaper was able to land into a roll and jump to his feet as Inu quickly caught the changeling and gently placed him on the roof. Are you alright? Inu asked as the young boy was shivering. So, CC cold? Beast Boy said before the masked ninja used a weak fire jutsu to safely melt the ice. Reaper stood on his feet to see Cyborg, Robin, Mokuzai, and a now focused Raven surrounding him and chuckled. What's so funny? Cyborg asked as he cracked his metallic knuckles. Finally seeing that you're about to get your ass whooped. Nope, Reaper said as the sunlight gleamed on his blood-red sword. I haven't faced 4 opponents at the same time in quite a while. Hope you're ready for jail. Robin said with determination in his voice before jumping in for a tackle. Seeing the attack, Reaper quickly stepped to the side, grabbed Robin's wrist, and tossed him towards a charging cyborg before ducking a punch from Raven and giving her a powerful uppercut before giving the girl a roundhouse kick that sent her a couple of meters from the combat. Seeing Mokuzai run towards him during his spin, Reaper quickly slid around the masked ninja while pumping another round in his shotgun. Mokuzai quickly turned around and blam! The 3 titans watched in horror as blood, small bits of bone and porcelain, and pieces of brain matter rains onto the roof with a few pieces of brain matter and specks of blood landing on their faces. Tenzo! No! Inu roared out as Mokuzai's headless body soon turned into a tree that was rooted to the roof while the wood clone was also turned into a tree, allowing Kyuubi to break himself free. Finally, said Kyuubi as he rolled his neck with his mask hiding his demonic smirk, now for the real hero to join the fray. Kyuubi jumped towards Reaper in an attempt to tackle the assassin, but Reaper lazily stepped to the side, causing the masked ninja to crash into Raven. Hold still. Kyuubi growled as he turned to face the assassin while Reaper just merely chuckled before jumping to the side to avoid a flying kick from Inu and jumping off the roof. Everyone rushed towards the edge to see Reaper sliding to the building's side before the assassin pushed himself off the side when he was close to the ground and rolled onto his feet at the pavement. Neat trick, right Kyuubi? Reaper said with a taunting tone. Can you top that? Oh, I'll top that, you fucking bastard. Kyuubi roared before feeling a hand on his shoulder. Calm down, Raven said with slight authority in her stoic tone. He's just goading you so that he can have an advantage. Shut up. Kyuubi roared violently before tightly grabbing the girl's wrist and leapt off the edge of the roof towards the ground with Reaper looking at him. Reaper jumped away as the pavement cracked when Kyuubi landed with a powerful stomp before the masked ninja swung Raven towards the assassin like a flail. Seeing no chance to dodge the attack, Reaper braced himself as he crossed his arms just in time for the girl-turned flail to smack right into his body and sending him into a tumble. The assassin jumped onto his feet and looked at Kyuubi, who still had Raven tight in his grip. Using your own colleague as a weapon like that? Reaper asked as he saw some of the more braver civilians taking out their cell phones. Even I wouldn't do something that dishonorable. Shut up, Kyuubi growled as he tightened his grip, causing Raven's wrist to break while the people around were talking. What is he doing? He needs to let go of her. Why is he using Raven like that? Is he seriously with the Justice League? Shut up, Kyuubi roared towards the crowd as he could still hear everyone talking. Shut up. All of you. Kyuubi, that's enough. Roared a new voice as everyone looked to see Hiraishin and Shinobi. What the? Reaper said as he looked back at the car that had Naruto's headless body before returning his attention onto Hiraishin. How are you still alive, Hiraishin? What do you mean? Hiraishin asked as he had to hold back his tears as he saw his son's corpse near the car. What is all this about? Oh, you don't know? Reaper said as he saw the people with their phones still out. Someone placed a hit on a Mr. Naruto Wilson as it was revealed that the celebrity is actually the Justice League's newest recruit, Hiraishin, aka you. The assassin sheathed his sword and holstered the shotgun before pulling out a picture of both Hiraishin and Naruto and held them side by side. See, Reaper said as he saw the shocked look on Hiraishin and Shinobi's eyes. Both you and Naruto have bright blonde hair and bright blue eyes, and if you place your picture over Mr. Naruto's, he looks exactly like you. No, Minato thought as realization had hit him harder than a speeding train. I got Naruto killed. I was the cause of my own son's death. Perfect. Naruto thought as he saw the tears falling from Hiraishin's eyes, with everyone witnessing my death, and the reason behind it. The Justice League will have much more trouble now. I have you now. Kyuubi roared as he charged towards Reaper with Raven still in his grip. Now you die. The assassin dropped the pictures and before anyone could blink, Reaper had drew his sword and slashed at Kyuubi. Both Reaper and Kyuubi stood a few feet away from each other and turned to face each other. Nice try, Reaper, the masked ninja said with a taunting tone, but you missed me. I wasn't aiming at you. Reaper said as he sheathed his sword with a click before blood flew from Raven's now detached forearm. Raven screamed in pain before removing her cloak and wrapped in around the wound as her hand and wrist were completely severed from her arm in a swift and clean cut. "Clever bastard," said Kyuubi as he was about to charge towards the assassin, but somehow found himself wrapped in golden chains. "Kyuubi, that's enough," Shinobi said as tears were pouring from her face. "We will talk about this later." "Looks like my job's done," Reaper said as he reached into one of his side pockets. "I'll meet you sometime in the future." "Sayonara." The assassin tossed a smoke bomb onto the pavement and vanished into a cloud of smoke as Robin and Inu jumped in to try and capture them. When the smoke cleared, Reaper was nowhere to be found as the duo had only collided into each other. Seeing Shinobi run towards Raven in hopes of helping the girl with her wound, Inu rushed towards Hiraishin as the man had fell onto his knees with tears rolling down his eyes. "Sensei," Inu said as he slid to the blonde man said, "Sensei, talk to me. We need to go after Reaper. I killed my son." Hiraishin said as he looked at the bright sky, "I killed Naruto. I killed my own son." Watching from a limo that was on the adjacent street, Reaper slightly chuckled before he entered the vehicle where Luther and Lottie, along with the many stuffed animals Luther had bought her, were waiting. "So Naruto died a needless death," Luther said as he watched Hiraishin pound the street with his fist, and all because someone thought that he was Hiraishin. "What's worse than a parent seeing that they had been the cause of their own child's death?" Reaper asked as Lottie was hugging a large winged unicorn with a happy giggle. "Wait, you mean to say that?" Luther said with a surprised tone before he let out a small, dark chuckle. "You are a cruel bastard." "While I wanted to be the one to kill him," Reaper said as he saw Lottie set a stuffed fox away from the other stuffed animals, "I still got our agreement done as Mokuzai is no more and I understand that we have one extra person with us." "Of course," Luther said as he and Lottie stuffed Flash in the trunk. "I'm honestly surprised with how your apprentice has easily taken him down despite her childlike mentality." "Sometimes, Mr. Luther," Reaper said as a smile formed under his mask, "you have to look underneath the underneath." Kushina walked through the halls of the watchtower and past the many other heroes of the Justice League who had given her their condolences. It had been a whole week since Naruto's death and the woman could only remember bits and pieces of what had happened. The press conference at the revelation of why Naruto had died, Kyuubi's behavior and actions, Livewire's meltdown at the prison, consoling Minato, secretly attending Naruto's funeral, and talking to the other members of the league on just what to do with Kyuubi. Kushina walked until she approached the door that led to the watchtower's brig used for certain villains that couldn't be easily contained even with special modifications to their prison cells. She entered and traveled until she reached a cell where Livewire was being held as she was wearing a special rubber straitjacket and bound to a hand truck. She stood before the villainess with the glass wall door keeping the two women separate should emotions get too high. Livewire looked up and saw Kushina as she narrowed her eyes with a growl coming from her throat. "You bitch," Livewire said as she sneered at the woman, "you and your husband are responsible for Naruto's death. I should have fucking fried you when I had the chance." Kushina said nothing as she didn't even bother putting on her disguise, nor had she wanted to. All because of a few similarities. Livewire said with tears slowly running down her cheeks, "My boyfriend just had to die because that asshole you call a husband couldn't hide that damned mop of hair of his. He took Naruto away from me. That prick took away my sunshine. We had never planned for this." Kushina finally said with a cracked voice as a few tears rolled from her cheeks. "We had only wanted our little baby boy to come back home to us so that we can fix all the wrongs we have done to him." "Well, congratu fucking lashin'," Livewire said as anger was building up. "Now you won't have to worry about it because he's fucking dead, you child abandoning slut. We would never abandon Naruto." Kushina cried out as the tears were flowing freely from her eyes. "Minato-kun and I both love our children very much." "That's fucking bullshit," Livewire countered as she jerked forward, only for her bindings to prevent her from going further. "If you really loved him, then he wouldn't have gone through so much fucking shit because of you, your husband, and that fucking monster that you dare call a son. We had to focus on Arashi because," Kushina said before she held herself back to avoid spilling the secret about her red-headed son. "Don't bother hiding Arashi's little secret from me," Livewire said with a venomous look in her eyes, "because Naruto has told me about how Arashi holds an actual demon inside of him. Arashi has the real Kyuubi sealed inside of him." "Naruto told you that?" Kushina said in shock as the villainess slowly nodded her head. He told me everything, Livewire said with venom in his voice. He told me of the times that you and your husband wouldn't have him train in anything that doesn't require any of that chakra crap, or how Arashi uses him for target practice for any jutsu that he learns, and even how you never seem to even fucking notice him at all. I may be a villainess, but even I would be a better mother than you. Kushina honestly wanted to go in the room and slap the villainess hard enough to give her a concussion, but she instead fell to her knees as her tears fell onto her hands. She's right, Kushina thought as she let out a pained sob. I should have been there for Naruto. I should have trained him in Kenjutsu or even Taijutsu, but all I did was push him away and never notice any of his injuries. It was only half an hour later when Kushina was able to calm herself down and push herself onto her feet. It was painful and tiring for her as she knew that all of this could have been avoided if she was a better parent. If you have nothing left to say, Livewire said as she slowly lowered her head, then just fucking leave me to mourn. Kushina carefully placed a hand on the glass before resting her head on the barrier and closed her eyes. If it's any consolation, the woman said as she let just one last tear fall from her face, Minato and I are truly sorry about everything that has happened and we would have supported your relationship with him seeing how much you love him. Kushina received no answer as she stepped away and traveled deeper into the brig while composing herself. She had one more prisoner to visit. In the watchtower's infirmary, Raven was sitting in one of the beds looking at her remaining hand and the bandaged stump where her other hand once was. Her hand couldn't be saved as the damage done was too much as the wrist was completely shattered with piece of bone cutting into not just some of the smaller veins but the major arteries around the wrist. Knock, knock, said a familiar voice as Raven looked to see Beast Boy with a small black rose in his hands. I'm not in the mood for any of your stupid jokes, Raven said bluntly as she looked away as of all people to visit her it had to be Beast Boy. Wasn't planning on joking around this time. The changeling said as he approached the girl's bedside and sat in the nearby chair. Just thought I'd visit you and see how you're doing. How do you think I'm doing? Raven asked with slight anger. I only have one hand now because they couldn't save the hand Reaper had cut off. Okay, just chill, Beast Boy said as he held his hands up. I just want to see how you're feeling. Sorry, Raven said as she reeled in her emotions. I haven't seen anyone this past week as aside from Jean, you're the only one who had visited me. Really? Beast Boy asked with surprise, but what about Starfire? I thought she was your closest friend. She's having her scars checked at by Minato and his teacher. Raven said with slight venom as she mentioned Minato's teacher, if he does anything to Starfire. I'm with you there, Beast Boy said as he had to agree after seeing how Minato's teacher had acted around Wonder Woman. What about Cyborg? Jean told me that Cyborg was letting me have some space for a little while. Raven answered as she slightly missed her brother figure, and last I heard, Robin was talking with Batman about what to do with Kyuubi. Beast Boy slightly sneered at the mentioning of the redhead as there just had to be something done with Kyuubi. If I had a say in anything, Beast Boy said with a serious and angered tone, I would have let the beast giving him a thrashing that he'll never forget. Really? Raven asked in surprise. I mean, I know that you probably would have liked to step on a few bad guys as a T-Rex. But unleashing the beast on someone with the intent of teaching them a lesson? The changeling chuckled as he said, I know that it's surprising coming from me of all people, but with what Kyuubi has done, he sent a guy to the hospital, badly scarred one of our closest friends, used you like a weapon, and practically destroyed your hand. I honestly have to thank Reaper for cutting your hand off if it means for you to get away from that monster. Kind of a low blow with that last part, Raven said as she looked at her stump. But I honestly have to agree with you there as Kyuubi, I don't think he's human anymore as that power had corrupted him to the point of no return. Beast Boy nodded as there was a fine line between being human and an animal. He had to fight that line with every transformation including the beast. Thanks, Raven said with a small genuine smile on her face. No problem, Beast Boy said with a small smile of his own before he presented the rose. Gotcha something. Raven took the rose in her lone hand and gently twirled it before laying it on her lap. Thank you, Raven said as her smile remained on her face as a small blush formed. Garfield. Anytime Rachel, Beast Boy said with a faint blush on his face before the two of them began to talk about memorable moments while Beast Boy had informed Raven about the recent changes, neither one of them noticing a figure listening on their conversation from outside the hall. Booyah, Cyborg said with a smirk on his face before he walked down the hall before he decided to visit Raven. In an unknown building, Flash was slowly regaining consciousness as all he could see was darkness with the exception of white underneath him. "Where?" the speedster said as his vision was correcting itself. "Where am I?" "You in one of my lovely homes," said a familiar distorted voice as Flash's vision quickly corrected itself to reveal Reaper standing before the hero. "Dark and gruesome," Flash joked with a smirk, "just like you." "Nice one," Reaper said as he adjusted his stance, "but I have a better joke. How do you torture a man who can't sit still?" Taking a couple of steps towards Flash, Reaper said, "You make him under the threat of death." "Oh ha ha," Flash sarcastically said from his seat, "why bother binding me to this chair if I can just vibrate my way out?" "That wouldn't be wise," Reaper said as he guided Flash's eyes to a small red string that was attached to the hero's costume. "As you see, there are tiny red strings delicately attached to your suit and they are all attached to something else. But only one of them is attached to the gun pointed at the back of your skull." Using a mirror from his pocket, the assassin revealed that there was a revolver pointed at the back of Flash's head with the hammer cocked all the way back and a red string connected to the trigger. "Go ahead and move your left pinky," Reaper said calmly, "I promise it won't kill you." Although skeptical, the speedster moved his left pinky to only hear a loud crash of what could have been a ceramic jar or vase. "That is the only freebie you're getting, so you better get comfortable," Reaper said with a slightly confident tone. "So what do you want from me?" Flash asked. "Clearly I have something you want or you wouldn't even keep me alive." "That's only half of the reason," Reaper said as he turned away and began to walk into the darkness. "But mostly I just want to send Bat Teme a little message." "What kind of message?" Flash asked once more, but Reaper never answered as he vanished into the darkness. A bright flash shone in front of the bound hero to reveal a television screen that was set on the recent news. "What the?" Flash said as he watched the news play out to reveal what all had happened in the past week. "So Naruto's dead and it was because of mistaken identity?" "Indeed," Reaper's voice echoed from the darkness. "The Justice League faced a lot of trouble as Hiri Ishin mourned over causing the death of an innocent person, more importantly his own son. But of course that wasn't just it," Reaper said as the television screen changed to reveal Kyuubi swinging Raven around like a club. "Your other new recruit had used his own colleague as a weapon before I severed her hand." "But that's impossible," the speedster said as the screen changed to reveal Raven with her hand severed after Reaper had slashed towards Kyuubi. "How can that happen as Raven's half-demon blood would keep that from happening?" "It's all thanks to my personal blade, War," said Reaper as the television revealed a screenshot of the blood-red blade. "Through forging my own sword, seeing a few connections, and making a deal or two, I was able to have a powerful sword similar to that held by one of the riders." "The riders?" the hero asked with slight wonder in his voice and face. "As in the Angels of the Apocalypse," Reaper answered calmly, "although it's not the real thing. The blade possessed by the Red Rider can supposedly cut down even the very gods themselves. Which is why they only entrusted such a blade to a being that brings forth ultimate destruction along with other objects of pure destruction. The War is but a cheap replica. It is still powerful enough to cut down demons such as Trigon." The television was soon shut off after revealing a small bit of Naruto's funeral as Reaper then said, "Oh, how much chaos can be done through a simple case of mistaken identity." "What do you want?" Flash asked as he wanted to get out of the chair and find the assassin. But with how close the gun was, he really wasn't fast enough to dodge a bullet that close. "As I've mentioned before," Reaper answered with his voice echoing around the speedster, "I just want you to send Bat Teme a message. Talk to you later." Flash looked around to see all of the red strings connected to him with only one of them was connected to the gun. "Maybe if I move carefully," the hero thought as he tried to trace the strings and look through the darkness, "I can figure out just which one of these would spell my doom without blasting my brains out." Carefully moving his left ring finger, Flash watched the string closely while listening for anything behind him. *Karash. The sound of wooden blocks crashing onto the floor had startled the speedster, but he was able to keep himself from visibly flinching by tensing his body. "Impatient already?" Reaper's voice echoed from the darkness. "Consider yourself lucky that all you did was knock over a Jenga tower or else the fun would already be over." "Oh, I'm just having a blast," Flash said as he was really wanting to give the cur a piece of his mind. "You should join in on the fun." "Maybe later as right now," Reaper said with slight joy in his voice. "I need to go make a few calls. Sayonara." As silence echoed around Flash, the hero sighed as he was able to free another finger. One down, the hero thought with slight confidence as he saw the many more red strings surrounding him, just a crap ton left. In an adjacent room, Naruto had finished pouring himself some wine as Slade was nearby with his own glass. "All good old-fashioned torture," the older assassin said with a small smile, "I've taught you well. I wonder just how long it will take for him to realize the gun is fake." "Who said the gun's fake?" Naruto said as he took a sip of wine. "I'm wondering just how long it would take for his heart to completely stop." Slade's smile just widened a little as he said, "That's my boy. So what are you going to do now that you're dead?" "Dunno," Naruto said with a devilish smirk as he swirled the wine in his glass. "Might steal something from the Teen Titans. Kill another Justice League member, I might even just go see a play." "I'd love to join you," Slade said after placing his empty glass and putting on his mask, "but I have other plans at the moment." "Enjoy your day, son." Naruto chuckled as he said, "I will, father, I will." In Metropolis, Superman was flying through the air patrolling for any criminal activity and to try and get his mind off of things. The Justice League was under some heavy fire in the past couple of weeks after everything that had happened at the Jump City parade and Flash's sudden disappearance. "Can't believe that this is happening all over again," the Man of Steel said to himself as he felt a case of déjà vu, "but only this time it's much worse." "Of course it's much worse," said a familiar voice as Superman stopped to see Reaper just casually leaning against a clothesline, considering that a very famous and well-known celebrity was killed and how one of your new recruits just used one of your younger colleagues like a club on your watch. Who wouldn't make a fuss? "Reaper," Superman asked as he was ready to fight the assassin, "why are you here?" "Just taking a stroll," Reaper said as he stepped closer to the edge away from Superman. "I've done no harm, yet." Superman saw Reaper take a step over the side and chased after the villain in hopes of keeping the assassin from getting killed. But to his surprise, Reaper was standing on the side of the building like it was the roof he was standing on before. "How are you?" Superman asked as Reaper drew his red-bladed sword as the assassin began to hum a tune. A quick slash snapped the Man of Steel out of his stupor as he saw that his uniform was cut and the skin underneath was slowly oozing blood. "How did you do that?" Superman asked as he quickly backed away from the side of the building to avoid another attack. "How did you cut me?" "You may be a Man of Steel," said Reaper as he carefully turned the red blade as the sunlight gleamed from it, "but even steel is vulnerable to magic. War here was just an ordinary blade." Reaper continued as he watched the Man of Steel hold his injury, "but after soaking it in a mixture of virgin's blood and demon blood, I possess a blade that can cut the very gods themselves. Raven is proof as I was able to slice off a half-demon's hand like a hot knife through butter. This is but one of my specially made weapons that I have appropriately named, the Blades of the End." Reaper sheathed war before pulling out a small envelope and held it towards Superman. "I'd like you to deliver this to Bat Teme and tell him that I will be waiting for his response." The assassin said with a professional tone, "Don't worry, it's just a letter and a couple of tickets. I don't plan on killing him with something as cheap as biowarfare. Sayonara." A smoke pellet in the face caused the Man of Steel to reel back and wave the smoke away, allowing Reaper to vanish. Seeing that Reaper was gone once more, Superman brought a hand to his ear and said, "Superman to Watchtower." "Watchtower," said Jean's voice from the communicator, "is everything alright?" "Yeah, just had a run-in with Reaper," Superman said as he used his X-ray vision to peek at the contents of the envelope but found that the inside had aluminum foil. "I got cut by that sword of his before he gave me a letter that's to be given to Batman. I'll explain later when I get to the Watchtower." Superman out. After cutting of the communicator, Superman looked out towards the city and said, "Just who are you, Reaper?" At the Watchtower's brig, Kushina stood before a cell where Arashi was being held in during the past week. Arashi was wearing nothing but black briefs as his body was covered in many different seals and markings to prevent him from even twitching without alerting someone. He was also bound to an X-shaped post that kept him from moving around as a secondary measure of keeping the young man still. "Nice of you to finally visit Mother," Arashi said with visible anger on his face. "The only ones who would visit me was Kakashi-sensei, that fucking pervert, and that bat creep, Wayne." "Why Arashi?" Kushina asked with a mixture of sadness and disappointment. "Why are you like this?" "I'm like this because I'm the hero," Arashi answered as he jerked forward. "The village once treated me like a god and after that no good waste of space and air vanished. Everything's gone to fucking shit. Don't you dare talk about your brother like that. Kushina countered with venom in her voice. Yes. Minato and I have made a grave mistake of neglecting Naruto. Because I needed to learn how to control the Kyuubi. Arashi roared. I overheard you both talking about giving that piece of shit everything that's rightfully mine. I can use and mold chakra while he can't. Why waste your time on a piece of failure like him? Because we had to make it up to him. Kushina said as she tightened her fist. Tsunade told us about what's been going on with Naruto that we haven't been seeing. All the countless beatings from the villagers and the other shinobi. It took just looking at Naruto's own little filing cabinet that was full of each medical report done on him alone. Arashi mumbled something under his breath before a reverberating pound was heard as his mother slammed a fist into the barrier. What was that? Kushina shouted as she had a feeling that her little strike was registered in the system. I said, that fucking bitch. The red-haired man roared out. Tsunade was always patching up that piece of shit after I have gone through with him. Kushina paled as she couldn't help but ask, what do you mean? You mean to tell me that? Yes, Arashi said with a sickening smile. I've used everything you and father have taught me on Naruto as what could make better target practice. But on your own brother. Kushina screamed out in pure disbelief, how could you? I was showing that shit stain about just who is the top dog in our family. Arashi said with a pure demonic smile, and thanks to the power of the Kyuubi, I can do just that. Not for long, said a voice as Kushina looked to see Minato as he now had midnight black hair and dark purple eyes thanks to hair dye and colored contacts. Once the preparations are done, the Kyuubi will be extracted from you before your execution back at the village. So what are you going to do with the Kyuubi after you rip it away from me? Arashi asked with a challenging smirk. Without Yamato around, how are you going to keep it contained? Dr. Fate has agreed to throw the Kyuubi in a small pocket dimension that he calls the Void, an empty dimension where nothing exists, not even time itself. Minato answered as his new violet eyes narrowed towards his red-haired son. How could you do this to us? Because I can and I have the power to do so. Arashi answered as he then added, after getting a taste of the infinite power I have, I knew that I can do anything thanks to the Kyuubi. So the Kyuubi had corrupted you. Minato sadly admitted before Arashi began to chuckle. You seriously think that Kyuubi's doing this? The young man asked maniacally. That weak mutt only wanted to be left alone after meeting Madara, and it was thanks to the Shodan that Kyuubi became the weapon he is now. So many people thinking that it's a creature of pure hatred, but the feared Kyuubi is nothing but a pushover. This is all me. Clung. Even after shutting the emergency lockdown hatch, Arashi's maniacal laughter could still be heard through the thick door. Minato. Kushina said she was wondering just what had gone wrong in her life. I know Kushina, Minato said as he still carried that haunted look on his face. I just want this to be some horrible nightmare. You better fucking hope you wake up soon, said a new voice as the couple looked to see Tsunade standing before them with a look of pure anger on her face. Kakashi had told me everything that has happened and I couldn't believe it myself, but after talking to Ms. Willis and overhearing what had happened I am very disappointed in the both of you. The couple lowered their heads as Tsunade then said, once I return to Konoha, I am stepping down as Hokage and coming back here to begin a new life. What? Tsunade, you can't. Minato said. Both he and Kushina were devastatingly shocked at the revelation. A chakra-enhanced punch to the face caused Minato to collide into the wall and leaving a large indent from the impact. Listen here because I am not repeating myself, Tsunade said as she tightly gripped Minato's shirt. I only came back to Konoha because I believed that there was a chance of getting my little godson I loved so much back. You were able to convince me to give Konoha just one more chance because you and the pervert preached so much about how you both would do whatever it takes to get Naruto back. Now that he's dead, Konohagakure could burn to the ground for all I care now, and if you ever try to find me again, I will end both of your lines by turning you into a vegetable and making it to where Kushina could never have children again because killing either of you would be too good for you and Naruto wouldn't want that. Tsunade turned away from the couple, ignoring their calls, and walked away from them as tears rolled from her face. Naruto, Tsunade thought as she passed Livewire on her journey back to Konoha. I wish that I could have seen you just one last time. At one of his bases, Naruto was looking over his collection of guns and other weapons when he sneezed suddenly. Someone must be thinking about me, the blonde said as he pulled out a handkerchief and cleaned his nose. After placing the cloth tissue back in his pocket, Naruto walked past the many weapons on the wall until he reached 3 weapons that were on display. A snow-white shotgun, a black double-headed flail, and a pale gray sword that was curved like a combination between a scimitar and a sickle that gave it both a beautiful and an ominous look to it. Naruto then placed war on the empty display that was between the shotgun and flail before stepping back to view the 4 weapons. Pestilence, war, famine, death. Naruto said as he named each of the weapon in the order they were displayed. These 4 are always a constant in life, as pestilence can destroy life and cause the diseased crops to wither and die. This soon brings forth both war and famine as people fight for was edible food that could eat, and once those 2 have played their parts. Naruto delicately picked up the sickle sword, death, and gave it a quick twirl before looking at his pale reflection as he then said, "Death shall arrive to bring forth the end." "While I am not going to bring forth the actual end," Naruto said as he put death back on its pedestal, "I only want to show the Justice League just what they are dealing with." At the Watchtower, the key members of the Justice League were in the meeting room with 1 seat empty due to the absent and missing Flash. "All right," said Batman as he stood at the head of the table, "it's time to start this meeting." "Where's Flash?" Black Canary asked as she and a few other members noted the absent founder. "Flash isn't here because he was captured during the Jump City parade a week ago," Batman stoically answered, getting a few shocked looks, which brings us to a few topics because of the event. Starting off with a few of us needing to have changes to our work uniforms. A hologram projected a picture of Naruto Wilson and a picture of Hiroishin before his change next to each other as Batman continued. With the revelation Reaper had brought forth in Naruto's assassination, it has come to my attention that our disguises are not completely foolproof. Because of someone believing Naruto to be Hiroishin, we now have a dead celebrity due to similar traits. We all know that Minato Namikaze is Naruto Wilson's birth father, Red Tornado pointed out. The fact is that their similarity has led to Mr. Wilson's death. If anyone could point out this kind of similarity, it could be possible to connect the dots between other members of the League such as Superman or Wonder Woman. Said founder's eyes slightly widened at the question as they hardly had anything that said, no connection. With their personas, all someone had to do was connect the dots or just mess around with one of their pictures and their identities could be revealed. That is why I'm going to ask some of the members to change how they look so that another incident like this wouldn't happen. Batman said as the hologram soon changed to a picture of Kyuubi, Arashi. Now on to the next topic, Kyuubi. Arashi Uzumaki Namikaze has proven himself to be a danger to everyone. I agree, Wonder Woman said as she crossed her arms. He is too reckless with his power as he had sent a young man to the hospital with chances of him being in a coma for Hera knows how long, attacked Starfire, used Raven as a club and destroyed her hand in the process, and if I'm not mistaken, he had cost thousands of dollars to a small restaurant even before becoming a member of the Justice League. We need to do something about it. We're already working on it, Batman said as he motioned towards the entrance of the room as Jiraiya entered, causing the female members present to glare at the man. Minato, Dr. Fate, and I are preparing everything to take care of Arashi as we are planning on taking the Kyuubi out and placing it inside a place that Dr. Fate calls the Void. The Toad Sage said with a serious tone, it'll take some time, but once the Kyuubi is free from him, Arashi will be sent back to our world where he will be executed for his treasonous actions. That's kind of harsh for a bully like him, Captain Marvel said as he didn't like the thought of killing someone. Sound idea for me, Hawkgirl said casually. By your world's standards, he interfered with a highly important mission, attacked your allies, and had attacked your own people from what Kushina had revealed to me. When will the preparations be done? Superman asked as he wanted Kyuubi taken care of as soon as possible, hopefully without getting the young man killed. We're ready to go once the daimyo gives us the okay. Jiraiya said. Tsunade had sent a messenger to the daimyo about all that had happened before she announced to the village that she's stepping down from her position as Hokage. I've never seen the village in more of an uproar since after the Chunin exams with what Arashi had already done. Where is Tsunade right now? John asked as he saw the woman's medical skills and was really impressed. She's visiting Naruto's grave, Batman bluntly said. She wanted to see him just one last time before finding a new life here. I have created the legal documents necessary for her to get settled. On to the next topic. The picture on the hologram then changed to a picture of Flash as Batman said. We have learned that Luther and Lottie had captured Flash during the Jump City parade. How is that possible? Captain Marvel asked with concern. He's like the fastest guy in the league. Most likely Lottie had quickly used what Reaper had taught her to take him down without a problem. Batman said as he remained serious, Flash's location is unknown with the exception of him being in Reaper's clutches. We are working on how to find him. Now to the main topic. The hologram then changed to pictures of Reaper with his cloak both opened and closed. Reaper, Wonder Woman said with narrowed eyes, I still owe him for that night. Stay focused. Batman stoically ordered, we really don't know just what Reaper is capable of as all we could gather is that he is an expert assassin, what with him being taught by Deathstroke, has the ability to cling to surfaces with his feet, and is in possession of possibly dangerous magical artifacts. Superman instinctively placed a hand on his chest where Reaper had cut him. He could only wonder what the other blades of the End were like. We have also learned that he somehow has a grudge against you more than the League itself. John mentioned as he sneered a bit at the memory of meeting the assassin, Reaper's a cunning and ruthless son of a bitch. We need to keep an eye on him and take him down quickly. We also must bring our attention to his sword, War, along with what the other weapons he has for the blades of the End. Batman said as he brought up a still photo of Reaper cutting off Raven's hand. Superman had mentioned that the sword was soaked in the blood of a virgin and the blood of a demon. Who's to say that the other blades weren't as well? I have also looked into them and saw that War and the other blades are somehow connected to the angels of the apocalypse. Each of those angels are a representation of what is to be brought with them, Dr. Fate said as everyone looked at him, plagues, hunger, endless violence, and finally the death of humanity. I find it disturbing that any mortal would try and mimic any of those meant to bring forth the end of humanity. We must exercise the utmost caution should he have the other blades with him. Batman nodded as he then revealed the envelope that Superman had delivered and said, we have a chance of learning more about Reaper as he invited me to see a play with him. Really? Wonder Woman said as she and everyone were completely shocked with what the Dark Knight had revealed. We are talking about what could be the most dangerous person in the world and he just invited you to go see a play. This has to be a trap. That is why I'm going. Batman said without missing a beat, if he has a problem against me, then I will show him that I'm not one that is easily intimidated nor foolish enough to be caught completely off guard. I'm going and that's that. This didn't sit well with everyone, but they knew with how Batman worked. Batman is just Batman. He took down crime bosses, took down a group of villains that banded together with Lex Luthor, beaten a powerful psychic in a mind battle, and even outwitted the most brilliant of villains. How do you take a guy like that down? If nothing else is to be added, Batman said as he looked to see if anyone would talk, then this meeting is adjourned. Batman soon exited the room with Wonder Woman quickly following him with a slight limp in her step. Are you really going to sit through a play with an assassin like Reaper? Wonder Woman asked as she finally caught up to the caped Crusader. Of course I am. Batman bluntly said, Reaper is not only the League's problem, but my problem is he is challenging me. He's trying to tear us down by targeting only me. If he wants to fight me, then I'll fight him. Wonder Woman sighed as she then said, just be careful around him Bruce as who knows what that bastard has planned. At a cemetery, Tsunade stood in front of a grave with tears in her eyes as this was Naruto's grave. So many questions were running through her mind. Why didn't she do more? How could she look at Naruto now? Why did this have to happen to her favorite godchild? I'm sorry Naruto, Tsunade said as she hung her head. I wish I could have done something more to prevent this. I should have made them see what Arashi was becoming and what was happening to you. When I had heard that you vanished, I was devastated. I had lost my brother and my beloved, but I didn't want to lose you. I had even given up drinking and gambling as I knew that you craved so much attention, and what did I do after you vanished? I went back to drinking and gambling my problems away. I had even allowed myself to become the Hokage after those two dumbasses had promised to do everything in their power to get you back and fix everything, Tsunade said as her knees began to feel weak, and look where it had gotten me. I'm standing before the grave of my beloved godson. The woman soon fell onto her knees and began crying as all this could have been prevented. She had lost her favorite godson twice in one lifetime and it was all Konoha's fault. She lost her brother and boyfriend to the war and that foolish dream. Her godson had literally disappeared because of neglect and abuse, and now after finding him he dies because of a case of mistaken identity. Are you alright, madam? asked a voice as Tsunade looked to see a man with graying black hair wearing an eye patch and a suit. No, Tsunade admitted through her choked sobs. Would you be, if you were standing in front of your godchild's grave knowing that such a fate could have easily been avoided? Of course not, and it is much worse as he was my adoptive son. The man said as kneeled towards the grave and clasped his hands together. Forgive me, Mr. Wilson, I didn't know. Tsunade said as she knew who she was talking to. It's all right, the man said as he stood on his feet and held a hand towards the woman, and please, call me Slade. Tsunade Senju. Tsunade said as she let Slade help her to her feet. I was Naruto's godmother. My apologies, as I can see you still love him as much as he has told me. Slade said, getting a shocked look from the woman. Naruto has told you about me? Tsunade asked as the man before her chuckled. He has told me about everything you have done for him. Slade said with a smile, healing him, protecting him, loving him. You were actually more of a mother to him than his real mother ever would be. Don't you dare talk about her. Tsunade threatened with pure venom laced in her voice. Very well, Slade said with a nod as Kushina would be a touchy subject at the moment. I was planning on dealing with some of the contracts he had agreed to with the many films he was supposed to be in, but I'm going to reschedule those meetings so that I could help a loving woman deal with the loss of a loved one, considering that both she and I share the same loved one. Thinking everything over, Tsunade looked at Slade and said, I would welcome it since we both could use some comforting. I actually have nothing better to do anyway. Tsunade followed Slade to his car in hopes of possibly finding some comfort and maybe more, as she secretly admitted in her mind that the man was quite a charming character. Slade hid his smirk as he had a few surprises for not just Tsunade, but Naruto as well. Flash wasn't having a good time as he was itching badly with the urge to move, but he knew that one twitch could kill him. He had already taken a couple chances and only freed all but his thumb on his left hand. What made his experience worse is that he was starting to feel an itch on his back. I can't even move my back without possibly killing myself, Flash said as that itch was starting to bother him when he saw the door open. The sound of footsteps echoed as Flash looked to see Lottie walking in with a stack of DVDs and a large bag in her hands. Hiya, Lottie said with a joyful tune. Mr. Reaper told me that you will be watching over me while he goes out to go see a play. So are you going to let me go? Flash asked with a smirk as he wouldn't be outwitted by the childlike woman again. Sorry, but Mr. Reaper told me that you need to stay there, Lottie said as she slightly fidgeted a bit. I'm not looking forward to being a bad girl and having Mr. Reaper spank me. He spanks you? Flash asked with slight confusion. Isn't that illegal with your case? No, but it feels weird when he spanks me, Lottie admitted sadly. I know it's supposed to hurt and it is, but I like it. Mr. Reaper said it might have been because that I was a very bossy woman who secretly likes being punished without even knowing it. But he told me that he only spanks me because he cares for me. Reaper being a parent? Flash thought at the idea of the assassin being a father. Not in a million years. Flash then noticed Lottie placing the bag down and put something in the DVD player before turning the television on. So what are you doing? Flash asked as he wondered if Reaper had sent the woman to torture him. We are going to watch my favorite TV show, Lottie said with a giggle as she revealed the front of the case, My Little Pony. She's a highly trained assassin and she's watching a kids show, My Little Pony no less? Flash had to mentally ask him as the masked woman delicately placed the stuffed versions of the characters on him without tripping any of the strings attached to him. There, Lottie said as she placed the pink pony on top of the speedster's head. Now you're ready to be a brony. But what if I don't want to watch the show with you? Flash asked as he really didn't want to go through the stack of DVDs. Then I'll tell Mr. Reaper that you weren't being a good babysitter, said Lottie as she then took a few steps towards one of the threads attached to Flash. Or I could be a bad little girl and play with all of this string like a harp, Lottie then said with a seductive voice that sent a chill down the hero's back as he wasn't sure if it was from how quick Laddie's personality had changed or if the woman knew exactly just which string could spell his doom. What's a few episodes going to hurt? Flash asked nervously. I've got nothing better to do. Yay, Lottie cheered with her childlike voice as she jumped in the air before laying on the floor before the TV. It's friendship time. Just what the hell did I just get myself into? Flash mentally asked himself as the cheerful theme song played through his head. At the Gotham Theater of the Performing Arts, Batman swooped down in front of the entrance. getting a surprised reaction out of the surrounding bystanders and theatergoers. Look, it's Batman. What's he doing here? Hopefully not get another celebrity killed. I wonder what the Justice League did with that Kyuubi character. Should we even trust a guy like him? You sure know how to make an entrance, said a familiar voice as the sound of heels clicking echoed behind Batman. Got the same invitation? Unless you got it from Reaper, the Caped Crusader said as he turned to see the woman who once directed Project Cadmus, Amanda Waller, wearing an elegant gold-white dress and pearl necklace. Then yes. Mr. Batman and Ms. Waller, said one of the theater employees. Mr. Reaper had already went on ahead to your designated seats and is waiting for you. Please enjoy the show. Batman looked at Waller as the woman said, well, don't want to keep the guy waiting since he paid for this trip. The duo walked in and traveled towards their seats on the upper levels, ignoring the looks and whispers. It's not every day that Batman is seen going to a play like an ordinary person, Waller said as she climbed the stairs to the level their seats were, but then again, you're not much of a social person. I have no time to be social with my enemies, Batman said as stoically approached the door that led to the seats, especially with those who want to kill me. The two opened the door to reveal Reaper occupying one of the 3 chairs reserved for him and his guests. I'm glad you both could join me, Reaper said as he motioned to a bucket of ice that also held a bottle of wine. I spared no expenses as I thought that we could use some time away from the accursed demon that goes by the name of paperwork. What do you want? Batman asked with a tone that he wasn't in a joking mood. Sheesh, I offer a moment to get away from work-related stress and this is how you decide to act. Reaper said with an insulted tone. This actually proves just how much of a jerk you can be, Bat-teme. You'll have to forgive him, Mr. Reaper, Waller said as she did appreciate some time away from her desk. He's just not the social type. Indeed, Ms. Waller, Reaper said as he handed the woman a red rose corsage. A rose for such a wonderful woman? Waller accepted the gift and placed the corsage on her dress while the Caped Crusader glared at him. What? Reaper said as if insulted again, can't I be the gentleman that I am? It's not like I'm hitting on her like some prude pervert. Or do you like her like that? Batman growled a bit as he knew that Reaper was just baiting him and decided to just sit down on the left side of Waller while Reaper was on her right. Too far for his own taste. I do hope you enjoy the play, Reaper said with a polite and professional tone. The Merchant of Venice is one of my favorites out of William Shakespeare's plays. My favorite character has always been Shylock the Jew as he is the most human-like character than the other characters and I always loved his most famous speech that he practically preaches out that even with his beliefs and ideals, he is as much a human as everyone else. Batman kept his focus on the assassin as the lights began to dim as the curtains lifted up to reveal the brightened stage. Just remember one thing, Reaper quietly said as the actors began their performance with Antonio sitting on one of the stairs with a depressed and solemn look on his face. Even Buddha loses patience when insulted a third time. A small gleam of light showed Batman that Reaper had a weapon in his hand, but it wasn't an ordinary weapon, it was one of Batman's own batarangs. The tip was cleverly pointed at the base of Waller's spine above her hip. He set me up, Batman thought as he realized why he and Waller were invited. Reaper had to have gotten a hold of one of Batman's batarangs and through the use of the theater's darkness, Reaper could stab Waller, a high-ranking government agent, and make it look like Batman was responsible. Another thing is that Batman has thrown so many of his batarangs that it would be inevitable that someone had to have gotten a hold of at least 1 or 2 of them. Even if everyone in the theater saw Reaper stabbing Waller, Batman would be held responsible as it was one of his gadgets that was used against a government agent. I'll play your little game for the moment, Reaper, Batman thought as he watched the actors brilliantly performing the play before the audience, but once this is over, I will stop you. Robin was standing before his team as he needed to discuss the mission Batman had given his team. Alright, Robin began as he saw Raven holding a hand over her bandaged stump. Batman has given us a mission. I thought we were our own team? Beast Boy asked with confusion. We are, Robin answered, however, the situation calls for us to work with the Justice League since we have a common enemy, Reaper. The young boy handed each of the other Titans a piece of paper as he continued. Reaper's partner, Lati, had captured Flash and now he's being held prisoner by Reaper. So where do we start? Starfire asked as she was wearing a purple leotard similar to Raven's without sleeves to hide the scars on her back. I can find him with a dowsing spell, Raven said as Robin looked at her. I just need something that belongs to him so I can get a good reading of his aura. I could also track him through the bioscans, Cyborg said with a serious tone in his face, but the only problem isn't just getting to Flash, but just who is there, as it could be Reaper, Lati, or even some sort of monster that Reaper had gotten his hands on. That's why I'm calling in some backup. Robin said before he then said, however, Reaper isn't going to be there as he invited Batman to go see a play, but even though he isn't there, we can't be too sure if he hadn't planned on someone going after Flash. You calling Titan East? Beast Boy asked as he was wondering how some of their teammates were doing. Actually, I'm calling in a couple of old friends. Robin said as he got a couple of wondering looks from his friends. I worked with them before I left Gotham and we could use the extra help. I already told them about the situation and they'll join us shortly, but we need to work fast as who knows what Reaper has planned for Flash. Everyone nodded as they needed to save Flash and possibly learn more about their opponent if possible. The Titans left the room so that they could begin the search and rescue mission given to them. Back at the theater, the third act had just started after the intermission and the two actors were performing their parts as Reaper, Waller, and Batman watched them. What is he planning? Batman thought to himself as he tried to find Reaper during the intermission and talk to him, but the assassin had simply vanished before reappearing just minutes before intermission had ended. He knew the Teen Titans could find Flash and possibly rescue him considering that he had trained the leader himself. The Dark Knight knew that Reaper had something planned for Flash and he needed to know. Batman was about to ask, but the assassin held up a hand as a means to be quiet as the man who was playing Shylock looked at the two actors before him. To bait fish withal, if it will feed nothing else, it will feed my revenge. The actor began passionately, he hath disgraced me, and hindered me 500,000. Laughed at my loses, mocked at my gains, scorned my nation, thwarted my bargains, cooled my friends, heated mine enemies. And what is his reason? I am a Jew. The actor portraying Shylock then looked at the audience with angered resolve and passion as he continued, hath not a Jew eyes? Hath not a Jew hands, organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions? Fed with the same food, hurt by the same weapons, subject to the same diseases, healed by the same means, warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer, as a Christian is? If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, do we not revenge? If we are like you in the rest, we will resemble you in that. If a Jew wronged a Christian, what is his humility? Revenge. If a Christian wronged a Jew, what should his sufferance be by Christian example? Why, revenge. The villainy you teach me I will execute, and it will go hard but I will better with instruction. I've always loved that speech as it rings so true. Reaper quietly said with a hint of joy and pride at how well the speech had gone. What are you talking about? Waller asked as she was pondering about the assassin's ideals. It's really simple, Waller-san. Reaper began as he watched the actors continue their performance. Shylock speaks about the injustice done on not only to himself, but his people because they are considered different and turned into monsters by the people of Shakespeare's time. Would it not be the same for any of the people you call villains, when the real villains are your everyday people? Batman raised an eyebrow at the assassin's words as Reaper continued. While it is true that some turn to villainy for their own gains, most times, some do not have a choice or are even given that role without proper reason aside from the fact that they are different. Everyone seems to forget the key moments in history that are supposed to end hatred as they express their hatred towards those who are different either secretly or even out in the open. The assassin then looked at the two next to him and asked, do you remember the incidents at Dakota that involved a chemical explosion which brought out individuals labeled as bang babies? Of course, Waller said as she looked from the corner of her eyes, everyone knows of those two incidents. I had even looked into those two incidents and those related to them myself. What are you getting at? Batman asked as he remembered working with Static Shock, one of the bang babies that the public calls those who gained some sort of power or mutation from the chemicals. Well, you see, Bat-Teme, Reaper began as he turned his attention to the performers on the stage, the youths who have been exposed to the chemical and mutated due to their bodies' reactions to said chemical were already given a label by the public and were even scorned for not being able to control their new powers or just appearing as a monster due to any form of physical mutation. Those with weaker will or without means of getting treatment join the life of crime as a means of survival or even for revenge against those who wrongfully scorned them. Reaper stole a glance towards Waller as he then asked, I am also sure that some form of agencies, such as those behind the Cadmus project, had even saw the mutated youths as weapons against their enemies. Am I right, Waller-san? Can't say I haven't heard a few things. Waller admitted as she has heard a few rumors about bang babies, but these are just children with lives instead of artificial beings that can be programmed. While that is true, Reaper said as he slowly blinked, it is possible to erase any form of humanity within those who are easily influenced, such as teens and the younger population, and turn them into mere puppets who will obey any command you give them. Who would do such a thing? Batman asked as he was disgusted by the very thought of turning troubled teenagers, let alone children, into mindless weapons. Oh, don't act so disgusted. Reaper countered as he narrowed his eyes towards the Dark Knight. Ideas of turning children into soldiers have always existed since the dawn of time when man learned how to fight and kill for survival before passing down their skills and knowledge onto their students and children. Even if those skills were meant for survival, the cycle of violence never ends as long as there are at least two people on this world, or any world. Someone is going to want someone dead. Now if you don't mind, Reaper said as he leaned forward to get a better view of the play, I would love to see the rest of this play as this is one of my favorites. So do be quiet for the rest of the show. It's disrespectful. Batman narrowed his eyes as he decided to finish watching the play while keeping an eye on the assassin as he knew that Reaper was planning something big. A lone Konoha shinobi ran through the trees as the now former Hokage had given him a message to deliver to the daimyo. Even though it was just a simple mission to deliver a message to the daimyo, the shinobi's mind was running a mile a minute. What the hell has been going on? The shinobi said to himself as the wind danced off his face while his thoughts had drifted off to what Tsunade had told him. It was just crazy as Tsunade was Hokage for about 6 years and everything seemed to be going great. But then she goes with Jiraiya and returns to announce that she's stepping down with reddened eyes. Tsunade looked as if she saw a loved one being buried right before her eyes and even had witnessed that loved one's death right in front of her. The shinobi didn't have time to have another thought as he suddenly fell to the ground with blood pooling underneath him. A new masked shinobi stood next to the slain ninja before kneeling next to the fresh corpse and pulled the envelope from the body. The masked shinobi burned both the envelope and the body before using a transformation jutsu to appear as the once deceased man. I need to deliver that message to the daimyo. The man said as he ran through the forest in order to carry out his mission. I wonder who Tsunade had chosen for her successor. Danzo is the only possible candidate for the position of Rokudame as I can't think of another person suitable for the position. The shinobi continued to run through the forest as he had a mission to complete by the order of the Hokage. At the watchtower, Robin was looking over the changes to his costume. His cape now had a hood on it and he wore a robin-shaped mask that only covered the top of his face. It was definitely warmer than his usual mask as the mask also covered his hair, but he would manage as he couldn't take any risks. It also felt odd as he almost looked like a smaller and more colorful version of his mentor. It was actually odd that he would be the only one of the founding members of the Teen Titans to change the look of his persona. Cyborg's friends left him while the teen himself didn't want anything to do with his father. Raven's mother was in another dimension. Starfire's caretaker is on another planet. And Beast Boy only had Rita and the others from the Doom Patrol, but even then the young boy didn't have a lot of people save Tara. The only thing Robin had as Richard Grayson was his own identity and Bruce Wayne, Batman, his mentor and father. His parents died and Barbara could handle her own, but against Reaper? His communicator beeped as Cyborg's voice said, Yo Robin, your friends are here. Alright, Robin answered stoically, I'll be there shortly. The boy wonder shut off the link and walked out on his room and through the halls until he saw his teammates and 2 others that he remembers. Been a while Robin, said a young teenaged girl with long red hair wearing a suit similar to Batman's, never would have thought you'd wear a mask like that. Didn't you get the memo? Asked a teenaged African-American boy wearing a navy blue coat with the hood covering his hair. A lot of Justice League members had to undergo some costume changes. If anyone could make that kind of connection with any of us could still spell disaster. Static's right, said a young boy wearing a green jumpsuit and a futuristic helmet that covered all but his mouth. One of the greatest actors in the world died because of mistaken identity. Alright team, Robin began getting everyone's attention. Our mission is to find out where Reaper had hidden Flash and rescue him. We don't know what awaits us, but we can be sure that Reaper wouldn't leave his hostage unguarded. We also must be alert for whatever traps that Reaper has planned, as he has been known to be crafty and dangerous. The mission is to find Flash and get him out of there. I have also brought Batgirl, Static Shock, and gear with us to aid us with the mission." Robin added as the trio nodded and waved. Raven had located Flash to a warehouse located in Alaska. "That is where we will be going. We must also be prepared, as Reaper himself could be there waiting for us, so we should expect some difficulties. We only know that he also possesses a powerful sword that he calls War, one of his blades of the end, so we must exercise caution if he brings out any of the other blades." Raven instinctively placed a hand on the stump where her hand once was, as she remembered it getting severed. "If there's any questions, then please ask them now," Robin said as he saw no one speaking. "Then meet me in the hangar within an hour. Get ready for anything." Everyone stayed silent as Robin left the room before leaving themselves to get prepared for anything. On the rooftops of Gotham, Reaper was casually walking when the sound of cackling stopped him in his tracks. "Greetings," said Reaper as he turned around to see the clown prince of crime with his queen next to him, Joker, Harley-san. "Word on the street was that you invited Batsy to go see a play a few days ago." Joker said with his usual tone of joy. "How come I wasn't invited? You getting cozy with him is actually making me jealous, considering that he appears to be giving you more attention than me." "Didn't mean to steal your boyfriend," Reaper said as Harley's makeup hid her small blush. "Just wanted to deliver a message to him myself. Told him about how man is the real monster, as it is man who creates them. Am I right, Red Hood? Haven't heard that name in years," Joker said as he let out a deranged laugh before continuing. "There's also word that you have Flash right in your pocket, and it was your little girl and Lexi who got him. So tell me." Joker leaned towards the assassin with a hand to his ear as he then said, "What's your secret?" Reaper remained silent before a small chuckle escaped his covered mouth. "The secret to my success in messing with Batman is a simple question," the assassin answered with a smile hidden by his mask. "What is the best way to take down your enemies? By death or by faith?" Before either Joker or Harley could think, Reaper used a smoke bomb and vanished into the night air. "So much for asking him if I could join his little group," Joker said with feigned disappointment. "Oh well. At least I still have Batsy in my little group. Come Harley," Joker then said with his usual smile. "Let's go out and have some real fun." "Sure thing, Mr. J," Harley said as she skipped alongside the clown prince of crime to cause more havoc within the chaos that is Gotham. At Reaper's hideout, Flash blinked slowly as Lottie had left in order to go to the bathroom and get more snacks. 3 seasons and 2 Christmas specials, Flash thought with fatigue on his mind. Why is this series so long? Getting his thoughts back together, Flash looked around to see that he was by himself, still with a gun pointed right at the back of his head, and who knows how long Lottie will be gone. Just need to be careful enough to not blast my brains out, the speedster thought to himself as he delicately moved the tip of his right boot to try and find out if his toes were safe to move. I just need to hear that certain sound. Reaper's an idiot for using a revolver. The door suddenly exploded open as Lottie appeared with a tray of chips and dip while Flash jumped, twisting his ankle enough to jerk the 2 strings attached to his boot. The sound of breaking glass and cans crashing echoed through the darkness of the room as a small can of tomato soup rolled towards the masked woman. Thank God the gun didn't go off, Flash thought as he tried to calm his racing heart. At least my ankle's safe. Lottie set the tray aside before she picked up the can and said, "If you wanted soup, you could have said so. Please let there be someone be coming for me," Flash thought to himself as Lottie started on another DVD, and let them hurry up. In Metropolis, Reaper was traveling across the rooftops when he heard the sound of fighting and followed it to find Captain Marvel fighting a few thugs. The most naive member out of the Justice League, Reaper thought to himself as he carefully hid himself from the hero's sight. I wouldn't be surprised since he has a few fanboy moments. After taking down the last thug and tying the group for the police, Captain Marvel looked at his watch and said, "Oh man. I have to get back to the class or Ms. Jacobs will go into a really bad panic." This caught Reaper's attention. Why would a hero be worried about being late to meet up with a class of students due to taking care of criminals? School children absolutely eat that excuse up because this had just recently happened and it would be so cool for a hero to describe some of their battles. With his mask hiding a Cheshire smirk, Reaper decided to follow Captain Marvel from a safe and unnoticeable distance. The assassin continued to follow Captain Marvel until they both made it to a fast food restaurant where a group of children were playing on the play structure that was outside. From there, Reaper saw the hero fly towards a small area that was out of sight but still close enough to the restaurant. What is he up to? Reaper asked himself as he stealthily hid in the same area and got closer to the hero. And I still got time to spare, Captain Marvel said with a small chuckle. Shazam! Thunder roared as a flash of light shone bright enough for Reaper to shield his eyes, and in the spot where Captain Marvel once stood was a small little boy. The assassin had to hide his shock as he had just found himself some leverage. Better get back with the class, Billy said to himself as he carefully rushed out of the bushes and headed towards his class as they were getting on the bus. Just in time too. The young boy was interrupted by something grabbing him from behind and making him fall to the ground. Just in time for me to get some bait for Bat-Teme, said a voice as Billy turned to see Reaper standing above him. Billy, the teacher cried as she froze at who was there before finding the courage to save the child. You leave him alone, you no good. Bang, bang. The teacher fell onto the ground after Reaper had shot her before holstering the gun and placing a gag over Billy's mouth. Enjoy the rest of your field trip, kiddies, Reaper said as he slammed a smoke bomb on the ground, making everyone shield their eyes from the smoke. After the smoke cleared, there was no sign of either Billy or Reaper, and the teacher was slowly getting up. Ms. Jacobs slowly got into a sitting position and wondered why she wasn't dead. She took a look at her shaking legs to see why. One of her heels were broken and there was a hole in the front of her skirt that was nowhere near her legs or womanhood. She was the luckiest woman alive to have survived an encounter with that horrid assassin. Wait a minute. Where's Billy? Ms. Jacobs asked with panic in her voice. Seeing the frightened look on the children had confirmed her fears before she suddenly felt lightheaded with a couple of students rushing towards her. Damn my weak heart. Up in Alaska, Robin as his team had made it to a large warehouse near the docks that Raven's powers had pointed them to. All right, Robin began quietly as he looked at the others. Everyone ready? We have no idea of what Reaper could have set up for us, so we need to be ready for anything. Everyone nodded before Robin said, all right, here's how it goes. Static, you, Cyborg, and Gear enter from the other side of the building. Raven, you and Starfire go in through the roof. Batgirl, you and Beast Boy enter from the side of the building. I'll take the direct route. Now let's move because who knows what they're doing to Flash inside. With said hero, his eye was twitching as they had just finished season 4 of that cartoon pony show for what could be the second or third time, and he could already see himself in that one blue pony with the awesome rainbow hair. Oh no, Flash thought as his eyes widened at the revelation. I can't believe it. I'm actually liking this show. I shouldn't let myself get connected to one of the characters of a girl's cartoon show. Yay! Lottie cheered gleefully as she threw her arms in the air. We finished season 4. Now for season 5. There's a 5th season? Flash yelled out in panic, causing some of the strings attached to his shoulders and chest to be pulled. A lot of loud noises were heard around the speedster, but none of them were gunshots, and Flash was still alive, although his heart might have actually stopped for real briefly. You're silly, Lottie said as she giggled at the look on Flash's face. No wonder Mr. Reaper wanted you to babysit me. I'm going to go look for the DVD and more candy. The woman got to her feet and playfully skipped out of the room, leaving Flash to deal with his tortured sanity. Please let there be someone here to get me out of this hell. Flash frantically thought as he couldn't imagine having to sit through another season and possibly a few more specials that Lottie had planned. In a different area, Cyborg and his team had just made it inside and looked around the enshrouding darkness. Nothing but a bunch of boxes, Cyborg said as he had turned on the night vision in his cybernetic eye. Going to one of the boxes, Gear had backpack scanned the inside of the box before he said, there's robots in this one, along with all of the other boxes too. About time you snot-faced bastards got here, said a familiar voice as the lights turned on to reveal Gizmo using his backpack as a jetpack. Had to deal with that irritating witch, Lottie. Don't understand just why Reaper had left her in charge when obviously she's probably playing with dollies instead of torturing Flash. Reaper's here? Cyborg asked as he, Static, and Gear were on guard. Nah, Gizmo said as he continued to hover in the air. That guy had to step out and said something about getting practice. Guy's just like Batman. He's here one moment, then he's gone the next. He did however leave these cool toys for me. Pressing a button on his watch, Gizmo had all of the boxes open up before a horde of robots jumped out and got into the same battle stance. Robotic henchmen, Gear said as he looked at the sheer number of the surrounding robots. How original. Some of the robots looked at each other before huddling together and combining with one another to form a large metal dragon, with another handful forming the same metal dragon. That's new, Static said as another group of robots got together and took each other apart and forming the parts into many different weapons such as swords, shields, and guns. Cool, Gizmo said before he saw one box that wasn't open. I'll let you three handle these guys while I go check on Sleeping Beauty over there. Oh no you don't, Cyborg roared out as he went to charge after the small villain, but was intercepted by some of the robots that remained the same. The cybernetic teen quickly began smashing his fists into the robots that were charging him, easily knocking some of them back. This continued on as Cyborg did manage to destroy a few of them, but the robots were soon avoiding the teen's attacks while delivering many multiple attacks of their own. It didn't take long until Cyborg soon found himself on the defense as the robots had somehow managed to gain the upper hand in the battle. Static had managed to electrically weld some of the robots to each other until they began to combine with each other to form either much larger robots or mechanical animals. Oh come on, the teen hero yelled out in slight frustration, no far using Transformers against us. What's next, Metal Gear, Hellsing? Some of the animal robots began to rush towards Static in hopes of catching the teen in their flesh-ripping claws, while the larger robots managed to get clubs made out of either stray metal beams or their own comrades. With Gizmo, the small villain approached the box and saw that it had a special security code before deciding to hack into it. Out of all of the robots Reaper told me that I can use, you had to be defective. Gizmo grumbled out as he continued to hack the lock until something latched itself onto his backpack. Looking behind him, Gizmo saw a mechanical spider on his back as it was starting to tear and destroy his backpack. Seeing the miniature villain preoccupied with backpack, Gear decided to see what was hidden inside the box as he began to hack into its security system. Yikes, Gear said as he managed to get through one security wall before getting into another security wall. What Reaper has in here isn't too good if it has this many walls. The technological hero continued to hack the box's system while Backpack continued to handle Gizmo and some of the other robots, unaware of what was inside the box. With Raven and Starfire, the two had managed to stealthily enter the place thanks to Raven using her powers to remove the window with her powers. Alright, Raven said as she looked around the area, let's try and find Flash as quickly as possible. Who knows what Reaper has planned? I think we would know, said a spunky new voice as the two heroines looked to find an African-American girl with purple hair and puffy pigtails wearing a light blue long-sleeved shirt, loose-fitting denim jeans, and white sneakers standing next to a large, purple man wearing a sleeveless black shirt and orange pants. How about we show these bitches what they're up against, Puff, the purple man said as she cracked his large knuckles. You will regret challenging us. Starfire countered as both her hands and eyes glowed brightly. Don't think you can beat me in Onyx so easily, Puff said as her lower legs turned into smoke, allowing her to fly into the air. We're no pushovers. Starfire, Raven said as she began to levitate into the air. I'll handle Puff while you take care of Onyx. But what of your injury? The Tamaranian girl asked as she kept her eyes on the large purple man. I'll be fine, Raven said as she sent a reassuring smirk to her closest friend. I can still cast my magic. You just watch your back. Starfire nodded as the glow in her hands burned brightly, ready for the fight ahead. With Batgirl and Beast Boy, the duo had managed to get in and knock out a couple of the super-powered thugs without much difficulties. Too easy, Batgirl said as she dusted her hands after tying the thugs together. Beast Boy quickly took the form of a bloodhound and sniffed around until he started to run down a hall. Hey, wait up, Batgirl called as she chased the green dog down the hall, unaware of a set of eyes watching them from the shadows. So, said a mixed voice from the shadows, guess Static had made some friends with the Teen Titans. Time go check things out. Batgirl had followed Beast Boy until the changeling had stopped in front of a door and began scratching it. He's in there? Batgirl asked as she received a nod from the green dog before kicking the door open to find Flash strapped to a chair with many different red strings attached to his suit. Thank God you're not Lottie, the hero said with desperation. I've been stuck here watching a stupid kids show with a gun to my head. Beast Boy changed back into his human form and kept watch as Batgirl examined the gun pointed at the speedster's head. She untied the string connected to the trigger of the revolver, took the gun off the pedestal, and flipped the cylinder out to make a realization. The revolver wasn't even loaded, she said as she carefully examined the barrel to find no bullet inside. "What do you mean?" Flash asked as he turned his head around. Bang! The loud noise caused the trio to jump as Batgirl yanked the string to find a tape recorder flying out of the darkness. "All this time Reaper held me captive through scare tactics?" Flash asked as he then began to chuckle to himself until he began laughing hysterically before fainting in his spot. Batgirl to Robin. Batgirl said as she pulled out her communicator, "Beast Boy and I have found Flash. He's unconscious, but safe. Where do you want us to rendezvous? I'm afraid that we're a bit tied up." Robin's voice said from the communicator as sounds of fighting can be heard in the background. Reaper was expecting a rescue and had Lottie and members of both the Breed and HIVE waiting for us. "Get Flash out of here. We're not leaving you guys behind," Beast Boy yelled out defiantly. "There's no other option," Robin said as the sounds of fighting continued. "Get Flash out of here and contact the League." "Understood," Batgirl said before she shut the communicator off. "Be careful." Batgirl quickly got Flash loose from the chair as she looked at Beast Boy and said, "Let's get Flash out of here and call the League as the others might need help." "Too late for that," said a mixed voice from the darkness, "little girl." In Gotham, Tsunade and Slade were walking out of one of the city's fancy restaurants. "Thanks for dinner, Slade," Tsunade said as she was wearing an elegant, forest green dress with a fur coat draped over her body. "You sure know how to treat a lady." "Well, I was married once," Slade said with a slight smile, "but let's just say that my ex and I didn't agree with how things have gone. This fur coat is nice considering how many looks I was getting when I had it off," Tsunade said as she was tempted to knock some teeth out of a few people, waiters included, that were staring at her, more specifically at her endowment. "Well, you do have to consider that not many women are naturally that size," Slade commented as he remembered all those stares as well, "but you are just as beautiful, even if you didn't give Pamela Anderson competition." Tsunade chuckled a bit before a street thug approached them, wielding a knife that shone dangerously in the light of twilight. "Give me money," the crook threatened as he then saw Tsunade's necklace. "I'll also take the pretty lady's necklace." "I'm not going to ask twice." Tsunade looked over the thug before she took off the fur coat and handed it over to Slade. "Hold this for me, would you?" the blonde asked. Ignoring the crook's shocked look, "I'll give this guy just what he deserves." What are you doing?" the crook asked as he saw the woman hold a hand with her pointer finger behind her thumb. "Twick." Slade watched in surprise as the crook was suddenly tossed into a brick wall before falling into a dumpster underneath. "Hopefully that'll teach him a lesson," Tsunade said as she took her fur coat back and put it on. "Never mess with me." "Wow," Slade said as he blinked a few times, "you're just as strong as Superman." "That pushover?" Tsunade said with a chuckle in her voice. "He's just too much of a gentleman to arm wrestle me and he blushed every time I tried to talk to him." "You are full of surprises, Tsunade," Slade said with a chuckle of his own. "How about I take you to my place for a short while before you go back to the Watchtower?" "Actually," Tsunade said with a distant tone, "I don't plan on going back to that place, nor am I thinking of going back to my world. Both places have bad memories that I'd rather not talk about right now." "Very well," Slade said as he and Tsunade had made it to one of Slade's personal vehicles. "I'll try and make things comfortable for you." In a warehouse in Alaska, Robin was still fighting Lottie after getting a call from Batgirl. "You look silly with that hood." Lottie giggled as she went for a roundhouse, but Robin had quickly dodged it. Ever since the incident that caused Naruto's death, a new rule was added that none of our uniforms could reveal too much about us, Robin said as he threw a punch towards his opponent, but missed as Lottie somersaulted over him. The masked woman had landed a few punches on Robin's shoulders before the boy wonder spun around and deflected a few of the other punches from his opponent. "Hope your friends can handle Hydra," Lottie said cheerfully before her voice became sultry. "He's quite a handful in combat." "Who's Hydra?" Robin asked as he blocked a kick before grabbing Laddie's leg, keeping his opponent on one leg. "He's a grumpy pants that Reaper had found," Lottie said as she returned to her childlike personality. He also kept talking about someone named Static and how they planned on showing him how much stronger they had gotten. Before Robin could ask more questions, Lottie quickly jumped on her free foot and went into a spin that allowed her to use her free leg to kick the side of Boy Wonder's head. The force of the attack had caused Robin to lose his grip on Laddie's other leg before being launched a few meters away. Damn it, Robin thought as he quickly rolled away to avoid Lottie trying to stomp on him before jumping onto his feet. She's fast. After rubbing the blood off the corner of his mouth and spitting some out on the floor, Robin quickly tightened his fists before charging towards Lottie, ready to take her down. Elsewhere, Cyborg and Static continued to fight the legion of robots while Gear hacked away at the box's security system. Last security system, Gear thought as sweat dripped from his forehead, still makes me wonder what is inside this thing. As the team continued to hack through the security, Gizmo was finally able to pry backpack off of him before turning his attention on Gear. I don't think so, barf for brains. The micro-villain said as he rushed towards the taller opponent. Seeing Gizmo on the move, Cyborg quickly amped the power of his sonic cannon. Hey Gear! The cybernetic teen called out before aiming at the box and firing, get down. Seeing the attack coming, Gear quickly dodged out of the way in time to the sonic blast to not only create a small explosion that knocked Gizmo back, but had also fried the security lock on the box. That's one way to hack a lock, Gear joked as he saw the small villain on the ground unconscious. Rushing towards the downed villain, Gear quickly found the control to the robots Cyborg and Static were fighting destroyed. After a moment of thinking, the blonde genius called backpack over and quickly repaired the controller to find a voice modulator. These things respond to voice commands. Gear said to himself before moving a watch that he had on his wrist to his mouth. Let's see if I can trick those robots. Static and Cyborg suddenly found themselves against each other's backs as the army of robots edged closer to them. Not the way I expected to go out, Static said as the sheer number of robots were too much, even with the power of electricity. Kinda thought I'd lose the rest of my human body before my death. Cyborg said as his battery was getting low. Alright, listen up, Gizmo barked out as everyone looked to just see Gear, looking a bit nervous at the odd looks the robots were giving him. I need you scuzzballs to shut down right now. Please work, please work, please work. The blonde thought to himself as he thought of something funny. You know what, Gear said as he continued to speak into the watch. I want all of you Bolt for brains to do the entire dance routine for Thriller for 80 hours before shutting down. A few robots suddenly turned into stereos with Thriller playing loudly while all of the other robots going into a huge dance routine with a few of them had danced Michael Jackson's part of the dance. Holy crap, Gear thought as he lowered his hands, that actually worked. Admire the dancing robots later, Static said as he and Cyborg flew up to where Gear was. We still need to rescue Flash. Yo Static, Cyborg said as he got the electrified teen's attention. Mind giving me a little boost? Static nodded as he placed a hand on the cybernetic teen's back and gave him a non-lethal shock that fully charged Cyborg's battery. Thanks, man, Cyborg said as he took a deep breath before noticing Gear looking inside the partially destroyed box. What's up, Gear? I need to see something as this box was heavily guarded by multiple firewalls and locks. Gear answered as he reached inside the box. Gizmo said that Reaper had let him use those robots, so that means, oh no. What's wrong? Static asked as he and Cyborg were now cautiously curious about the blonde's discovery. You're not going to like this, Gear said as he pulled his arm out to reveal a snow-white shotgun. With Starfire and Raven, the two continued their battle against Puff and Onyx with Puff and Raven fighting in the air while Starfire and Onyx were on the ground. Azareth, Metreon, Zenthos. Raven called out as she used her telekinesis to lift a couple of heavy crates and threw them towards her opponent. After completely turning her body into smoke, causing the boxes to harmlessly pass right through her, Puff smirked as she said, "Did you really think that I'd get hurt by some wooden boxes? Dumb bitch." Seeing the poisonous cloud that Puff had sent her way, Raven quickly encased herself with her magic as the clouds ate away at some of the nearby boxes and steel beams. On the ground, Starfire was punching Onyx with her hands covered with her energy while the behemoth used his thick arms to block them. If that's the best you got, Onyx said with a smirk on his face before giving the Tamaranian a massive punch to her stomach, then you've got nothing on me. The force from the attack had launched Starfire into a wall before she fell onto the ground. The young girl had slowly picked herself onto her hands and knees before letting out the contents of a couple of her stomachs onto the floor. Ahaha, Onyx said as he slightly flinched away, with a victorious smirk still on his face. Nasty. Guess that's already a victory for me. After getting to her feet, Starfire wiped the bile off of her mouth with her knuckle and said, "Our battle has just begun." Letting out a Tamaranian battle cry, Starfire used her ability of flight to dash right through Onyx's and gave her opponent a powerful uppercut before following the attack with a massive haymaker to his jaw. The Titanic man tumbled onto his knees, but he still managed to keep himself up as blood began to ooze from his mouth. "Not bad," Onyx said before wiping the blood of his mouth with his own knuckles before spitting some out on the ground, "but let's see you do that again." The metahuman's battle fury was reignited as he rushed towards the Tamaranian girl with a massive haymaker ready to be delivered. Starfire quickly dodged the attack before infusing her knuckles with an energy bolt and giving her opponent a head-ringing strike. Taking advantage of her combined nimbleness and enhanced strength, Starfire used the immediate opening to grab the metahuman's arm and toss him towards Puff. The Misty Girl never saw her ally coming as the force from the impact caught her off guard before she was sandwiched between Onyx and a metal support beam. Before the two metahumans could recover, Raven used her telekinetic powers to bind them together with the very metal beam they had struck while also binding Puff's mouth shut through her magic. "That should hold them," Raven said as she landed next to Starfire. "How are you holding up?" "I am fine," Starfire said as she felt her back tingling with an occasional twitch. "My back is starting to act up a bit, though." Raven placed both of her now glowing hands gently on the Tamaranian girl's back and began to heal what irritation she could. "This injury is actually quite different than the others I have healed." The empath spoke as she studied the energy-infused scar. Kyubi was using demonic powers that's part of an even greater demon. It's actually living energy, and even though it's not enough to outright kill you, it still has an imprint on your body. While most of the women don't like him, we have to have Jiraiya look to see if he can do anything about this imprint, and soon. "And why is that?" Starfire asked as Konoha's seal master had even given her the creeps. "Because this kind of power can easily overwhelm those who do not have a resistance to demonic energies or a demonic heritage." Raven explained as she could almost feel Starfire's scars breathing. "Eventually this power will try to corrupt you, at first making it seem like a blessing before ultimately changing you in a drastic way. I'm also thinking that your star bolts could also affect it, giving it the edge it needs, but that's only a theory until we know for sure." After finishing what healing she could provide, Raven then placed a comforting hand on Starfire's shoulder as she then said, "But don't worry, I'll always be here for you should anything happen. After all, we are close friends." Starfire looked to see Raven giving her a rare smile before smiling herself as she knew that the empath will be there for her, just like the other titans. With Robin, the boy wonder was still fighting Lati as neither of them giving up. "I need to keep my head in the game," Robin thought as the masked woman he was fighting kept giggling and laughing while delivering her attacks. "I can't underestimate her." The boy wonder then pulled out his retractable bow staff, right before blocking a flying kick from his opponent. "We're using weapons now?" Lati said as she performed a series of backflips to avoid Robin's attacks before going into a fighting stance with knives in both hands. "Let's go." Lati dashed towards her opponent before having to jump back as Robin swung his weapon around to give himself space. The boy wonder then dashed towards before pole vaulting himself into a flying kick that Lati had blocked. Using the momentum from his jump, Robin then performed a spin and used his staff quickly give his opponent a series of jabs upon her shoulders and torso. A powerful jab to the center of her chest caused Lati to get knocked back before she bounced onto her feet and tossed her knives towards her opponent. Seeing the attack, Robin quickly deflected them before seeing that Lati had multiple knives hidden on her person. "Why aren't you catching them?" Lati asked as she continued to throw knife after knife, each of them getting expertly deflected. "I thought we were playing catch." Robin remained focused as Lati tossed one last knife that was quickly deflected before she dashed towards her opponent. While still spinning his staff, the boy wonder twisted his body around before using the momentum to attack his charging opponent, until Lati quickly slid underneath the attack. Using the momentum of her slide, Lati quickly rose up onto her feet while using two of the knives she picked up to give her opponent cuts on the back of his legs, back, and shoulders. "Damn it," Robin angrily thought as he rolled forward and jumped back onto his feet facing Lati. "She purposely lured me into that trap. I should have seen it." Robin could feel a cool sensation on his back and legs as the blood from his fresh injuries stained his uniform. He had to think of something, as it was only a matter of time until he'd end up passing out from blood loss, as the number of them were making him bleed a lot. The boy wonder jumped into the air and threw a handful of smoke bombs that exploded as soon as they had made contact with the floor. Using a metal support beam to give himself an extra boost, Robin launched himself towards where Lottie was and went in for an attack. Clang! The sound of metal hitting concrete alerted Robin that he had missed, but he couldn't act in time as a flashbang had gone off close to his feet. Badly disoriented, the boy wonder then felt something grabbing him at the same time as something had knocked his feet out from under him. "I really am quite the knockout," said a familiar, sultry voice as Robin tried to focus his sight on the voice, "but you are kind of too young for my taste." Although feeling pressure on his chest, the boy wonder then felt something wet on his exposed cheek before hearing a chuckle. "You don't taste like my boyfriend, as I'm sure you still have some of that boyish charm you and your mentor tried to stamp out," Lottie said as Robin's sight soon cleared to reveal that his opponent was sitting right on top of him. "And don't bother lying about not enjoying my little taste of your face. Your friend is thinking otherwise. But like I said, you're too young for my taste and I already have a boyfriend." Quickly acting after Lottie had let up a little, Robin quickly gave the masked woman a swift and powerful punch to her face. The strike was strong enough to not only knock Lottie off of the boy wonder, but also break the bottom part of her mask. Robin got to his feet as Lottie quickly did the same, as her mouth was exposed to reveal a small trail of blood coming from the corner of her lip. "Impudent brat," the now semi-masked woman barked out as she sneered towards Robin. "I'm guessing that Batman taught you to always use brawn over brains when pinned down by a woman. I wouldn't be surprised if all that oath did teach you was to never trust your own allies and keep backup plans should they ever cross you." After wiping the blood from her mouth and spitting some of it out of her mouth, Lottie then said, "I'd either kill you or horribly cripple you if not for Reaper's plan, but I guess we'll meet another time." The woman then quickly undid her skirt and tossed it towards Robin before pulling a string that was connected to gas pellets that were sewn to the underside of the skirt. The pellets released a wall of smoke in front of the boy wonder's face while the sound of footsteps echoed in his head. "Lottie!" Robin roared out as he quickly cleared his vision to only reveal that his opponent had vanished into thin air with only her skirt and the bottom half of her mask leaving evidence that she was there. "Damn it." After calming himself down, Robin pulled out his communicator and dialed one of the contacts he had listed. "Beast Boy, come in," Robin said as he got nothing but static. "Batgirl, come in. Do either of you hear me?" Seeing that he wasn't getting an answer, Robin tried a few other contacts as he then said, "Cyborg, static, gear. Do either of you read me?" "Read y'all loud and clear, Rob," Cyborg said as his voice was heard from the communicator. "We took care of Gizmo and some of the robots that Reaper had let him borrow, and we also found something else. We found a shotgun," Gear said as his voice was soon heard from the communicator, "and judging from the amount of security that was protecting the box it was in, it must be one of Reaper's more powerful weapons." "You mean the Blades of the End?" Robin asked as his team was briefed about when Reaper had managed to cut Superman with the same sword he used to sever Raven's hand. "Doesn't look like a blade," Static growled out due to his strong dislike of guns. "Whether or not it looks like a blade or not doesn't matter," Robin said as he could only imagine just what the shotgun Cyborg's team had recovered. "You need to exercise the utmost caution, as who knows just what that weapon could do." "No problem," Cyborg said before he then asked, "Have you tried contacting the others?" "I tried to get a hold of Beast Boy and Batgirl, but all I'm getting is nothing but static," Robin answered as he had a feeling that something wasn't right. "I'm going to go check up on them since they had managed to get to Flash. You three are to meet up with Starfire and Raven and give them any assistance that they might need. You be careful, man," Cyborg said as he soon cut off his end of the communicator before Robin put his away. "Hang in there you two," Robin said as he recovered his staff and dashed out of the room. "I'm on my way." Batgirl groaned a bit as she began to regain consciousness before looking around. "Wha the?" Batgirl asked as her vision began to correct itself. Where am I?" Looking to find Beast Boy and Flash tied together with chains in the middle of a circle of barrels. "Beast Boy, Flash," Batgirl said as a fireball flew by both barrels and the captives. "We suggest that you don't try anything," said a voice as Batgirl looked around to find its source until she saw a shadowy figure hidden in the darkness with eyes and mouth glowing with orange flames. You might set off one hell of a bomb, even without this. The figure held up a clenched hand that revealed Batgirl's utility belt, much to Barbara's shock. Oops, said the figure as he conjured black flames that destroyed the belt. We're so sorry about that, Toots. We really don't have much control over our powers yet. Who are you? Batgirl asked with a growl in her voice as she glared at the figure venomously. That's a good question, the figure said as he entered the lone lighted area to reveal that the shadowy figure's skin was matching the surrounding darkness despite the figure wearing baggy purple pants, black sneakers, and a black-red t-shirt under an ash-gray vest, and his hair was actually one massive black flame while smaller black flames were seen rolling off of this person's body. Just who am we? Well, Toots, we decided to call ourselves Hydra considering one little intended accident caused my two halves to fuse into what you see right here. Two people, one body, and yet we're rocking our new evolved power. I'm guessing that you're even more of a blowhard than both of your halves combined. Batgirl taunted after reading Hydra's posture and tone. You're just a run-of-the-mill crook. You watch your bitch-ass mouth. Hydra roared out as the smaller flames became larger before becoming smaller as the fiery shadow calmed down. We can't help if we literally have two minds fused together. And just so we're clear on one thing, Hydra suddenly stepped back into the darkness and vanished completely out of sight before suddenly reappearing right behind Batgirl and clenched her mouth. Try anything funny and we'll have ourselves some barbecued bat, Hydra said before licking the side of the girl's face, sending chills down her spine. Feeling her mouth being set free, Batgirl looked around for Hydra but couldn't find him while the man's hyena-like cackle echoed throughout the surrounding darkness. For once, Barbara Gordon had never felt so afraid of the dark in her entire life until now. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.